We addicted to fast cars, bad bras, late nights, last calls, alcohol, bad bitches scrolling through the phone log, hit 'em up, all my pick 'em up. We bout to have a time tonight. Sure you keep that burner tuck, cause niggas like to creep low. Say motherfuck the PO and the judge. But if they come with us, just know it's love. I'm saying just because. Yeah. Cause we been coming from welfare, medical, healthcare, living in the hood is hell here, hell yeah. I'm saying just because. Love. I watched my mama and my daddy struggle with the bottle. I watched my cousins and my brother banged out full throttle. Driver's seat, we bout that action, we ain't sitting idle. And even when they melanated, still a rival. I ain't about killing, but I'm about survival. And we be praying to the Lord, but still ain't read the Bible. And put that pedal to the floor with a savage title. Hope we don't crash out. Shawty out, seeking attention, she got out.
What is freezing? Does he know you using that? Hey, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
That most people believe in America, but few people have evidence of. Tonight, we'll be looking at the Holy Ghost, the Spirit, and all of that stuff, and tackling other metaphysical topics, and find out why people actually believe in it. Is it because of your personal experience? Is it because you were told to? What is it?
Yeah, that is a good question.
Tonight's topic was brought to you by this one. Believe it or not, people, this is not my topic. And I thought it was brilliant that she actually wanted to have this discussion. So yeah. I said, okay, fine, let's do it. Because she might have something different in mind. And to my understanding, she does have something different in mind tonight. We just have to find out, don't we? Miss AKA Lady is in the chat. Hey, Miss AKA Lady. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Miss AKA Lady?
Thank you for coming to support the show.
Yeah. Thank you for
I've seen her in the chat before, but I thought that she has this thing because she's an AKA, right? You know what AKAs are. You know. Other than being an AKA, she is cool beans. I love her to death. I do. She's cool people, but she's an AKA, so they're a different breed. My man, the Information Man, is in here early tonight. He wants to see the video. See, Information Man has learned. Unlike most other people, Information Man learns from the information, okay? He knows that you and I played the videos early in the show, so now Information Man is here on time so he can see the videos and have proper context because he knows that his input is valued here at Unapologetic. Very much, and sometimes it's required.
Right.
Yeah. Information Man, you can ask my sister. Sometimes, man, we tackle some subjects like you'd be perfect for.
Right. Yeah.
We're just like, we need Information Man for this. Like we talked about it like offline on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, Blackman, I love you too.
No, you don't. You don't love him.
Yes, I do.
No, you
Blackman,
you shouldn't though.
That's my other brother.
No, it's not. It's not. He's nothing like me.
Oh Lord.
Well, he isn't.
Yeah, well, y'all can definitely be brothers. Y'all go back and forth like brothers. So
that's beside the point.
All right.
That's beside the point.
Who else we got in the chat? Lost in Translation. We see you in there. What's going on?
He's in Birmingham.
Really?
Yeah, he's in Birmingham.
Oh wow.
Right down the street.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fellow Alabamian in the house. I was kind of concerned because I was like, I don't know how many people can roll up for this one.
Yeah, seriously. That's why I asked you last week. I said, you want to talk about metaphysics with this lot? You're like, yes. Okay, let's do it.
You see Blackman coming?
What do you say?
The show tonight is sponsored by StepStools.com.
The show tonight is sponsored by Step2Stew.com. Who wants to throw jokes in? Oh, look at next one. Cody is king. Look at him. Basically
Cody, what's going on?
Cody's my man. I like Cody. Cody be showing out on social media though.
Oh yeah.
Cody show out on show. I'm like, I know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? You ain't something. I mean, Cody, you ain't slick.
Right. Right.
But hey, that kind of thing works though. So
yeah. Oh, I saw what Vaughn. I saw Vaun in there.
Yeah,
hey, Vaun. Yeah. We got Earl Owens. Hey, Earl, how you doing?
Cody is king. I'm gonna need you to get some decent internet because I do want to see you and Shu Shu go head to head. Okay. Uh-oh. I still want to see that.
If a man say he 06, okay, I see you. Alpha man.
Okay. 06 Alpha man. Yeah, I know that.
I gotta put it down. So sweet Z5. You know what I mean? Gotta put it down.
You got. I think you got one of your sorority brothers in here.
Frat brothers.
Sorority, bro. I said it right. Sorority. Jedi Mike.
Jedi Mike, what's going on? That's what I'm talking about. Yes. How you doing, Frat? What's going
Jedi
on?
Mike.
Beautiful animated speaks. How you doing?
I can't even do her laugh.
Appreciate you as always.
You know, offline, I've actually tried like practice trying to imitate people in the chat and who come up on the panel. I can't do her laugh. That's the most memorable thing about Beautifully Animated. Right. So I think she's safe from me. I can't do the laugh, and I can't do it can't be Beautifully Animated without the laugh.
Definitely, that's for sure. 100. Brain 23 Blue 5. Okay, you know.
Hey, lady, all you gotta do is act like you're better than everybody else. You know that stuff.
Lord,
everything.
Anyway, let's get to the topic at hand because I'm pretty sure it's going to be interesting. First and foremost, disclaimer: this isn't like an attack or this isn't meant to insult anybody's belief or belief system at all. It's just simply taking a deep dive into our spiritual beliefs in terms of like the supernatural experiences. And I'm kind of trying to leave it a little bit like open in general, because I know like specifically in the African-American community, it's more so like Christianity is like the primary religion or primary faith. But like also it's not just Christians that have a belief or a reference of the Holy Spirit or encounters of like having, the Holy Spirit taking over or whatever. All religions have their versions of it, having supernatural, what they call supernatural experiences. And this actually spawned from the show we had last week when we were talking about does free will exist? And there's a part of it that where some of the scientists were saying that like trauma can actually be passed down from one generation to the next. And I actually had a video that actually showed and actually proved how trauma really can be passed down genetically from one generation to the next. And Ekene, is it Ekene or Ekene? But anyhow, he came up and he was talking about generational curses can be passed from one generation to the next also. And I just found that interesting how, not only like, trauma, but also like this, and this is a term that we often use too, generational curses can be, passed from one lineage to the next. What?
That seems incredibly unfair. If someone were to curse you, let's say if someone curses mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I'm born after the fact, I had nothing to do with that. Why would the curse fall on me? Since I'm the firstborn. And does that curse now pass on to you since you're the secondborn? And there's 6 years gap between us, which puts you in a different generation. Does it now pass to you as well? But because we're from the same parents, just two different generations. Is it just me, or does it pass down from me to you as well?
Well, it technically, the way from my understanding it passes like to the seed. So like we are mother's offspring, so it will pass down to us, and our offspring will pass down to them. That's called
but
generation.
Daddy didn't do anything wrong, right? So the
It
curse
don't
ain't
matter.
on him. So the curse ain't on him.
It don't matter.
And we're half him. So wouldn't then only half the curse come to us as opposed to the full thing?
No.
Well, why do we get the full thing if we don't have mama?
Because we are mother's offspring.
We're also daddy's offspring, though.
Yeah, but still. Anyhow, it's interesting also because I found a video.
People, I told you these conversations between us are authentic. This is how we talk to each other.
We don't want to get too lost in banter. So because I have a couple of videos that actually look into what happens to your brain, like the brain activity when you are having these supernatural experiences. And it furthers the question, like, are these experiences real? So when people say, oh, I feel the Holy Spirit, or I feel this, I feel that, I feel, good energy, bad energy, like, is this real? Is this something that's really happening to someone, and are they really having these experiences? So with that being said, the first video just talks a little bit about religion and throughout history, and different cultures have different religions and like the rituals and all of that. So without further ado, admin, please cue up the first video.
I think it's fair to say that supernatural agents have been part of the human experience for at least 30,000 years. Across all ecologies, all cultures, all living conditions, all epochs, one of the few constants of the human experience is the invocation and the postulation of supernatural agents. So why? Why is that the case? One possibility is that supernatural agents are real. Maybe they're real. Another possibility is that they're not real, but they perform some vital function for human groups and human individuals, or they help us with healing and with anxiety levels. But what we're seeing all around us now in the current modernized societies, people losing traditional religious orientations left and right. I mean, it's ubiquitous. So if that evidence is correct, that they perform these vital functions for human groups and human individuals, then a natural question arises: what happens when you stop believing in, supernatural agents? What do you do then?
Right. So first and foremost, like, where we get the idea of supernatural agents or gods or a god, and that for the most part depends upon what religion that you aspire to, and where we get these ideas from, and they're basically for the most part passed down culturally. And for instance, if you were born in America, particularly in the Deep South, it's more than likely you're going to be a part of some form or some denomination of the Christian religion. If you were born in India, more than likely you're going to be Hindu. If you were born in, say like Africa, like mid-Africa somewhere, you more likely you're going to be Muslim. So a lot of our ideas about
Africa's got a lot of different religions over there.
Yeah, they do. But I'm just using those examples.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, but like for example, like I had this conversation with a Christian friend of ours. You know what I'm saying? Guy used to go to church with us, right? Josh. In fact, I said, why are you Christian? Because it's the truth. His answer was, it's the truth. Christianity is the truth. I said, no, you're a Christian because someone told you to be. You don't actually know why you're a Christian for yourself, for your own edification. I said, and he said, no, because it is true. I said, no, but see, if you were born in Delhi, you wouldn't be a Christian. Right. If you were born in ancient Rome, you most certainly would not have been a Christian.
Right.
So my thing is, okay, you say that you have to believe in God and this, that, and the other to go into heaven. What about the people who never heard of Jesus Christ?
Right.
Or Christianity as a whole? There are civilizations that exist today where people have never heard of this.
Right. Yeah, there are.
So what happened? And we get into that conversation, but you're right. It depends on your region of the world you grew up in, the environment in that region of the world, You know, everyone has their own truth, and then their own truth becomes their own doctrines, and those doctrines become the gospel truth. And so people go on with that. You know what I mean? When, you know, like if you look at Judaism and Islam, and then you look at Christianity, there's a lot of similarities there. A ton of similarities between those three. Those are the big three.
Right.
But they're so similar. It's like, this is damn near the same thing.
Right. It says geographical location and culture will reflect the religion you stand for, and that's true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. That was the point I was making. Thank you, information man. That was the point I was making. You know what I mean? It depends on, it's also the time period in which you were born, time period in history, or the zeitgeist. Also, because remember, a lot of Americans who were Christian during the Civil Rights Movement switched to Islam and became members of the Nation of Islam and the NOI, you know, and they switched. So if the Christianity, if one religion is more true than the next, why are people switching?
Right. And that's one of the questions that video left off with, you know, why are people like abandoning like traditional religion?
Yeah, and Codius King said, we must bring you the Lord, meaning men. Okay. The hierarchy is God, then the husband, then the wife. Pecking order, not pecking order. Okay. Shout out to Andre Terry in the chat.
What's going on, Andre?
Yeah. Andre, I don't know why these people are mad at me. I don't know why. But people simply are for some reason. And Codius King is correct.
Where?
Hey, pecking order.
Right.
Keep reminding you of that. Even if it's 6 weeks down the road, you get on your man hitting stuff, I'm going to remind you of the pecking order.
Oh, really? Okay. Out of order.
Out of order.
Okay.
You're trying to take my spot.
All right,
and since the passing of our dear departed father, okay, that means that I am in charge, which means you have to do what I say and follow my guidance and leadership.
Anyway, I see
okay.
Scam likely in the chat trolling. What's going on, Scam?
Cody, do you see what I have to deal with over here?
Oh Lord Jesus.
Cody, you see this?
I'm a modern woman, okay?
No, you're not.
So we modern women, we don't do all that, okay? We forego all of that, okay? Forget all that. Forget all that.
You can stop it.
You most certainly can. And don't think the producers to not do that again. I don't like agreeing with Dr. Umar, okay? But in this case, I have to. You can stop it now.
Anyway, so yeah, the man in the video that's talking, his name is Patrick McNamara. He is a neuroscientist who studies the actual the effects of like supernatural beliefs and like, you know, how they affect the brain and all of these things. So he's done an immense amount of study on this. And so back to like, you know, religion and like just the different, we call them supernatural agents, or, you know, in this term, it would be like God, or, you know, depending on what religion you belong to, you know, a lot of religions believe in multiple gods. So this next video gets into our brain, how our brains relate to the supernatural. So admin, cue up video number 2.
So it's important to define what we mean by supernatural agents, since it plays such a central role in religious consciousness, at least traditionally. So a supernatural agent in general is an agent with special superhuman powers. They typically are disembodied, but not always. And the crucial thing is that they know what we're thinking and desiring. They have powers to heal and powers to curse. They tend to set up standards that human beings are expected to strive towards. And they tend to put human beings in a servile, petitionary stance. So we approach them with reverence, awe, fear, and all kinds of ceremonial rituals. We're always saying, please give us blessings and help, and then we'll sacrifice to you, we'll worship you, we'll organize our lives around you. What you find when you start to study the attributes and powers of supernatural agents, in particular in relation to individuals, is that the agentic sense of self, the executive self, gets diminished. So a natural question arises, why? Why do the supernatural agents want that? And why would we go along with it? What benefit, if any, do we derive from that process?
Yeah.
All good questions.
Exactly. And the studies that this guy has done has been seek to answer those questions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yes, people, including Sir Hill Speaks, who's a devout Christian himself and a minister. he says he's
Sir Hill Speaks.
Yeah, Sir Hill Speaks. The young man is an ordained minister, you know, and he was an ordained minister. I think when he was 14, and I told him, I said, Sir Hill, how serious am I supposed to take religion when you can be a minister when you're 14?
Oh Lord. Well, I mean, you do have some people who have like a way about them, you know.
Yeah, it's called charisma and the gift of gab. All that sizzle, no meat. So anyway, this guy, he does study. He's done a lot of studies, extensive studies to find out what it is. You know, when you actually dissect what these supernatural agents, i.e., God and others who require things of you, it leaves out the sense of self.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so he's trying to find out, okay, when you really look at what's being asked of you, you are second.
Yeah.
When by and large, you are here left to your own devices to do things on your own.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so like why would people volunteer for that? Like
what
that's
he
one
was
of the questions
saying
he was
is like when, you know, people practice a lot of times with religion, a lot of times it helps them with different factors of their lives, like to deal with stress, to deal with anxiety, to deal with like just the day-to-day like struggles that we have, and to help us live our lives in a certain way, really. Hence, like, you know, the rituals and the practices that we tend to practice in religion. And but the commonality with when you talk about supernatural agents, like with gods or a single god, each one of them have similarities, like in across the board, no matter what the religion. Like all of the gods that whatever god that they worship require the same thing. They require worship. They require some kind of what do I say, like offering. You know what I mean? A lot of times you have to give some kind of offering to them, praise, of course, and and it comes with a lot of fear and reverence. You know what I mean? So, is it?
Yeah, because I mean, I think a lot of it boils down to it. Religion helps people to answer questions that they have, you know, and I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about like when it started. People are looking for answers. Where do we come from? How do we come to be? How is the air the way it is? You know, they sound like elementary school questions that a child would have. However, people are looking for answers for them. And it is intriguing to think about these things. And I think one finding, and I'm not saying this is what I believe. So before you call me a God hater or an atheist or some nonsense like that, I'm telling you what scientists and some of the answers that scientists have discovered and come up with. That doesn't mean they're right. See, you're wrong, Mandrell. You're wrong, Mandrell.
Already wrong.
Already. And look, I never said I believed any of it. So this is why I'm being more specific and saying this is not what I believe. I'm just telling you all what some of the answers scientists have come up with. Right. It's not the answer that they've come up with, it's some of them, because different scientists that have done different studies and come up with different answers. You know what I mean? Like one of the answers is that it answers some of the questions. Well, where do we come from? Well, it's a result of intelligent design. You know what I mean? And like you said, Elson was stressed. Well, it's a very stressful time, but God's going to see me through. But then they make it through the other end and like, thank God.
Right.
But the thing is, they don't know whether they would have made it through without acknowledging a deity or not, because they already acknowledge the deity. Yeah, but then they're too afraid to go into hard times by themselves.
I think it just some of it too. It's more comforting having, I guess, the idea that there is something greater than us out here, and that
after death, everything's going to be okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And like, one thing we all do know for sure is we all have to, pass away at some point. And like the idea that, okay, once I leave here, I'm going somewhere else is more comforting than the idea of we really don't know where we're going.
Or if we're going anywhere at all. Like, think about it this way.
Because even in like, was it quantum mechanics? They talk about like alternate universes. They also talk about other realms. Like we exist right now in what is like 3D. 3-dimensional.
We exist.
But like there's a 4 and I think even a 5 dimension.
Yeah, there's a 5th dimension. There's up to 8. They've discovered up to 8 dimensions now.
Right. So it's like we really don't know what happens.
That's the big picture.
And then and not for nothing, like growing up, we hear all kind of ghost tales and ghost stories and stuff like that, or some people, even children. And it's funny how children will come up and they'll be like, hey, I saw grandma in my dream last night. You know what I mean? Or I see a man standing over there in the corner, things like that. Like, just some things that we just don't have answers to. You know what I mean? And so it's interesting because the next couple of videos I have can I guess help us make more informed decision. Like, are these real? Are these experiences really happening?
Or is it a result of dopamine receptors being overstimulated?
Yeah.
And incidentally, Mr. Bennett says in the chat there are 10 known dimensions, and we live in a third. Yeah, we know we live in a third, but I thought last I read we're up to 8 dimensions, but he says we're up to 10. So and Lost in Translation says,
and
Lost in Translation says there's 11 of them. So I mean, who knows? Right. I mean, science. Yeah, he's Lost in Translation says that there's 11. So I mean, science keeps growing. We keep learning new things, and maybe one day we will discover the location of heaven. You never know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you just never know. But anyway, go ahead with your video.
Right. So the next video we have goes into like what actually happens to our brains during supernatural experiences. So like, for instance, if someone is actually like having pretty much experiencing whatever, like maybe it would be the Holy Spirit or whatever. What is actually happening in our brains while this is occurring? So admin, cue up video 3.
So a big question that comes up when you're studying supernatural agents is the set of brain activity patterns any different when we're relating to a supernatural agent versus some control agent, like a particularly significant loved one or a prominent, powerful individual? And the answer is yes. We have noticed very different brain activity patterns when people are cognizing, remembering, or imagining, or praying to supernatural agents versus interacting with ordinary control agents. The default mode network is more intensely activated, particularly the set of structures that we see during REM sleep. And those include things like the hippocampus and the amygdala, the default mode network, and the salience network, whereas the dorsolateral, prefrontal, and the parietal executive function networks are downregulated. So the downregulation of those networks facilitate that petitionary stance, and the upregulation of all those social brain areas and REM sleep areas tend to activate the experiential aspects and the postulating of a superhuman mind that can read our minds.
So what you think?
Yeah, it's it makes sense that the part that governs the part of the brain that governs daydream or sleep or REM sleep would activate more heavily when you're experiencing something that you would consider supernatural,
right,
or something holy. I think it's just your perception of that figure versus a control figure, meaning a person like a president or a good speaker or something like that, is different. You're perceiving them differently.
Right.
You perceive a speaker as just it's a powerful speech, but you still know that's a man.
Right.
You're expecting different things from a man than you would from a deity of some sort. You know, so your brain is going to activate in a different way. Different parts of your brain are going to activate and switch on. Right. You know what I mean?
And that's this. The interesting thing is the parts of your brain that control like conscious, like rationality and all of the stuff is like completely like
it's completely out. Yeah, it's shut off when you
like
there's no rationale there.
Right.
You know,
right.
Yeah, when you're experiencing these things, the rational part of your brain is, like you said, is pretty much completely shut off.
It's off, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so everything that you perceive about the supernatural lives solely in the irrational part of the brain.
Right.
And this is where the debate comes with among scientists, you know, and this is why you got a lot of Christians now say, well, it's all on faith. Anyone using the rational part of their brain is going to say that makes no sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't dwell in the perception of the supernatural doesn't dwell in the rational part of the brain.
Exactly. But the bottom line is like something's happening.
Yeah, like something's definitely switching that brain on to fire like that.
Right. Something's happening. Your brain ain't just like spewing off.
Right.
So something going on.
You saw images. I mean, you saw the images. We showed the images right there in the video.
Right.
To have the brain activate that vigorously, something was happening.
Right.
Do we know what it was? No, but something was going on there.
Right.
You know, so there it is. I mean, it makes sense what he's saying. I mean, now trying to figure that out, that's going to be a different story.
Right.
And they say it's all on faith. Come on.
Nah.
You can't sell that to people. It's just I think people just don't know how to explain it.
I mean that's really what it is. You can't. And look, Ms. AKA says you can't explain God with science.
You can't explain God. Science is two different mediums. No, it's not, Ms. AKA lady. It's not. See, that's that AKA side of her brain firing right there. You know, it's the AKA lady. She's AKA. You should not feel sorry for her. Ain't you a Zeta?
Look, if you don't stop it, and we still all divine nine, though. You know what I mean? Don't matter.
Miss AKA comes to me all the time when I'm on DL Saint's panel.
Yeah.
And I don't even be bothering her either.
Right. You know something? It's interesting too because like I remember, especially like during the 70s, people, it was like psychedelics was like a big thing. And like looking into psychedelics and stuff and like why people were so interested in them, because psychedelic trips, like people actually use psychedelic drugs to trigger those same points in the brain. Like, because I heard stories of where they give you like experiences where like people be like, oh my God, I saw God. Oh my God, I felt God. And I've never done psychedelics because there's like, no, never.
Oh, well then you're in for a treat.
No, because that's the thing. You don't. Everybody's experience on those are different, and then on top of that, like you don't really know what's gonna happen, how you're gonna respond, because you have where they call them good trips and bad trips happen too. So the fact that you don't really know what it's going to unlock in your mind.
And here's the thing: you're in for a treat. Okay.
What you mean?
You never tried psychedelics for real?
Hell no.
Not even one.
No.
Hey, I can help you out.
No.
Next time you come, look, I'll be in New York.
No. No.
Yeah. I'll be up there in October. I'll be up there in October.
I don't like anything where I don't feel like I'm in control. Like I'm like on a conscious level. Like,
okay, cool. Let me ask you this. If that's the case, have you ever tried marijuana?
Yeah.
I hate it.
Right. But here's the thing. Marijuana, like I know the what it's gonna do. It's just gonna like feel a little high for a little bit, maybe like 15 minutes. And then when I come down, I'm gonna be chill. When I come down, I'm gonna be hungry, and that's it. With all the rest of this stuff, you don't know what it's gonna do to you. And I don't like that. Like, I'm not cool with it.
Here's the thing. Like, there's a lot of different types of psychedelics as well. You know, you do have the mushrooms, but people don't know what kind of mushrooms to do that with, right? That are psychedelic. There are many different mushrooms that are psychedelics, but then there's many different mushrooms that do nothing. That, you know, the kind you eat at the grocery store. There's other mushrooms that will kill you. So people don't know. People don't go out there and just pick mushrooms up the yard.
What's going on, Sheree? Yeah, I know different kind of, not different kind of. It's different kind of mushrooms that do different things.
Yeah, and I think I'm kidding around, about that. But then there's butter acid, there's mescaline, there's a whole lot of different stuff that the white boys be taking. And I'm not racist, people. Just saying. Right. It's just like if you want psychedelics, you ain't going to black people.
Yeah, a lot of some of the most creative people have used to do.
They've done on psychedelics. Look at Jimi Hendrix.
And Alice in Wonderland. That whole story.
It was the whole story is a psych trip. Yeah, it's an acid trip.
It makes sense when you read how the cat was appearing and disappearing, and he show up here, and he show up there. I get it now. But speaking of psychedelics, the next video goes into what happens when your brain's on psychedelics, and it brings to the question are these experiences, these supernatural experiences, are they real? So, admin, video number 4, please.
Now, a question comes up about when people who consider themselves non-religious or in non-religious contexts encounter what we would normally call a supernatural agent. And that's happening quite a bit these days in psychedelic experiences. The question of whether or not the same brain activity patterns are associated with supernatural agents that occur during psychedelic experiences versus those that occur during REM sleep or during religious experiences is a crucial question that we don't know the answers to yet. But initial indications are very similar brain activity patterns are occurring in all cases. There's a lot of sensory associations going on during these encounters with the supernatural agents. After studying these supernatural agents, both in psychedelic contexts and in standard experimental neuroscience protocols, the question comes up about their ontological status. Because people who experience them, even people who claim they were atheists, they're saying, I experience them as absolutely real entities. They don't follow my desires or my will or my agency, and they have independent effects, and I believe they exist whether or not I'm interacting with them. So very healthy people experience supernatural agents all the time. They believe they're real. In experimental neuroscience protocols, nothing about what we've learned so far about brain activities in relation to supernatural agents suggests that they're mere hallucinations. What to think of them ontologically is an open question.
He said nothing about them that the experiments that they've done has suggested that they're mere hallucinations.
Yeah.
So bottom line is there's something's really happening.
Well, the thing is, something's definitely. Well, here's what we know in the scientific community is that we know that something, when it comes to people experiencing either paranormal experiences or what they call a spiritual experience, we know that there's something going on there.
Right.
We know that there's something going on. However, we just don't know what it is yet. You know what I'm saying? There's still answers to questions that need to be answered. There's still more studies to be done.
Right.
It's just right now, what the scientific community has right now is that, and this is why you never hear me say there is no God. You never hear me say there is no ever, because the thing is, there's enough to say now to say you can't say that.
Right.
You don't know what anything is.
I had to admit that he was I wouldn't necessarily call it God, but there's enough, we've learned enough to know that there is something else, greater.
There's something going on. You're right. And the thing is it saying that it's God? No, it's not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But we know something's going on there. Yeah. So, and it's to the point where you can't rule out the possibility that there's a God. There might be a God. It might be. It might not be. We don't know, but we know something's happening. Right. And I think it's fascinating that people are fascinated that even the scientific. That's why you have more scientists now saying that, hey, who were atheists,
right? Yeah,
they used to be atheists. Now they're saying, hey,
right,
there might. I don't know.
But even in the video, what's the name, Patrick McNamara, he was saying that like people who even people who aren't religious report having supernatural experiences, and they were like, whether they believe in them or not, or whether they interact with them or not, the bottom line is they still have those experiences. They still happen. And so I got one final video. And then we're gonna open up the panel because I'm pretty sure people want to get up here.
And tell me how wrong I am, and I'm an atheist, and how I don't believe in God. What I've never said, you had me specifically say the opposite.
And that so like this final video is this one is from one of my favorite YouTube channels, The Big Think, and they're explaining what's happening and what it feels like during these supernatural experiences, and across each religion bottom line has these people experiences these encounters or whatever, and throughout all of them, there are like some similarities, and he goes through what like the similarities are, and depending on the religion, like whatever encounter that you have, like for instance, Christians experience the Holy Ghost, like Buddhists experience like what you call, is it Nirvana, something like that?
Nirvana. Nirvana is the highest when it comes to Buddhism. Nirvana is like the highest level. You've completely gotten rid of aversion in your life. Right. You've completely gotten rid of not being mindful. Like you've reached total oneness with yourself.
Right.
And it's also known as Zen. The Zen mode, and the people who reach Nirvana are people who are capable of maintaining Zen mode. Right.
They reach that. They reach that.
Yeah.
The bottom line is each religion, like whatever it is, like the highest peak or like the highest version of self, they experience that. And so, and there's similarities in no matter what religion or, that you practice, that they all experience. So, Atman, cue up the last video.
What do they feel like? What's actually going on in those places and spaces? And one of the challenges in coming up with a good and consistent answer, not just for a specific state like meditation or a flow state or a psychedelic state, is what qualities do they all share? Because each of those communities of practice over decades, centuries, and even millennia have accumulated their own storytelling or content about what the states they access are, what they mean, and where you're supposed to go through them. And the reality is that underneath, those experiences are far more alike than the wrapping paper, the narrative wrapping paper of what people see based on culture, custom, biography. And what we attempted to do was create a functional framework that lets us talk about these things as apples to apples and really see the similarities. And what we realize is that because of the neurobiology, there are 4 qualities that tend to arise pretty consistently, regardless of which door you go through to get into these non-ordinary states. And they are selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness, or STIR for short. And selflessness tends to happen because the areas of our brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex, but including additional networks that connect, often turn off or completely light up. Either way, they knock out our everyday waking sense of self-consciousness and self-awareness. So we end up momentarily lost our inner voice, lost our inner critic, lost our Jiminy Cricket, right? And we are in a state of not thinking about our thinking. Timelessness happens for a similar reason. As basically different parts of our brain light up and turn off, our ability to calculate time gets knocked out because it is a comprehensive measurement. It doesn't just occur in one single location in our brain. So when we start knocking out parts of the networks, we lose our chronometer. And all of the neurochemistry, right, focusing, attention, learning, drives our attention. We drop out of daydreaming about the past or the future, and we get absolutely sucked into the immediate present moment. So a feeling of timelessness comes with it. The effortlessness is just, it's no longer about what I'm trying to do. It's not about exerting grit or willpower, which has been, you know, a lot of people have been talking about and writing about these days. And it's literally in the sort of, almost in the biblical sense, sort of not my will, but thy will. I feel myself swept along, and it can be, I'm just self-propelled and it feels awesome, or it's terrifying, but I don't have a choice. But either way, it's not me plodding one foot in front of the other to get to a goal I've decided. So that's the effortlessness. And then the final bit is the richness. And that's arguably the whole shooting match, because when I knock out myself, consciousness, I don't have a voice inside my head, second guessing, filtering. When I'm not in the past or the future, I'm just in the deep present. When I am effortlessly being propelled, the next thing that consistently seems to happen is we have access to far more information than we do in our regular waking state. And that is when we go from conscious processing, which is very limited and narrow, to unconscious processing, which is faster and vaster. And Dr. David Eagleman, who's at Stanford, who's a friend and a colleague and a board member of ours at the Flow Genome Project, constantly makes that case, that really it's as if our conscious mind is sort of like the headlines of tomorrow's newspaper, reporting on the reality of today. And when we get into non-ordinary states, because of all the shifts in brain function and hormones and neuroelectricity, we have access to more of that information in real time. And the results often feel supernatural. People in the past historically have assigned this to the gods, to the muses, to fate, to possession, to angels, you name it, right? We pretty much exhaust the gamut of all the ways we could say this is just too much, this is too cool, it's too inspired, it's too informed to possibly be me. So we've assigned it supernatural origins, but in reality, we now know it might just be super-natural. It's just us in an optimated state. It's big data for our minds.
Yeah, that goes to what Codius King was the point that Codius King was trying to make. Now, what Codius King is saying, has been saying in the chat, this is true. The mind can convince you of something to the point where, like, say you imagine being injured, right? Or someone hitting you in the face. You could get a bruise on your face and no one's ever touched you.
Right, yeah.
The mind is the most powerful tool that we have. And it's possible, it's possible to convince yourself of that. There's evidence of that. That's been studied. Weird stuff like that. Like, people actually feel the pain of a wound that they never got.
Right. Yeah.
So
he was saying, turn off the practical side of your brain, side of your brain that stays in, quote unquote reality. The other parts of your brain that are open more to, like, sensory awareness and stuff like that. Like, you're able to channel information from those areas, and you're able to take in more from your environment, more from nature, more from the universe. You're able to take in so much more information, and a lot of it is like, it's kind of like a system overlay, or like, oh my God, this is too much. What's going on? And so, he was saying a lot of times in those experiences, people may check it up to like, oh, this is the Holy Spirit, this that. But really, what it is your mind opening up those other chambers in your brain and taking in all this much more information, much more data.
Yeah, and it sends them into sensory overload because they're not familiar with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like the whole thing of oneness and being like 100% yourself and oneness, I've experienced that. Especially after I just it's almost a meditative state. It's almost like you're watching yourself sleepwalk through things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And people, people say they have had out of body experiences and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can speak to this because I've experienced that. I mean, I studied a bunch of different religions. Buddhism is one that I kind of stuck with because a lot of the life lessons and the self-improvement stuff, it's absolutely fantastic. I think everyone should try to study it. You know what I mean? You get nothing but good things out of Buddhism because you're not worshiping a god. Buddha never claimed to be a god. In fact, he flat out told people, I'm not a god. Don't worship me like one.
Right.
So he's just had really good philosophies for life, and they do put you in a calming state. And when you reach that level of Zen, it is like you're sleepwalking and you're watching yourself sleepwalk through stuff.
Right.
It's almost like an out-of-body experience. You know what I mean? It really is. It's a trip.
Right. Yeah.
And you're right. Once you cut off the rational part of your brain, because that part blocks off things like other senses. It does. And so you are taking in new input because those governors are no longer there.
Right.
So you're able to experience more and absorb more information.
Yeah, but I think it is a good thing, like when you do things like that you do have someone around you to kind of help guide you, because a lot of people have going off the deep end and trying to do stuff like that themselves, or like not really understanding what's going on. So like, you kind of want to get somebody who to kind of help reel you back in, and to try, just to make sure you're okay. So ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go ahead and drop the link. And if y'all want to come up and join in this conversation, what are your thoughts about the videos that we played? What are your thoughts about religion and these supernatural agents, as they call them? Like, do you believe they exist?
And that's a politically correct way to describe it, because they don't want they call it that because they don't want to insult or offend anyone else's religion. That's why they call them supernatural agents, as opposed to calling them angels or ghosts or anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, that's the
plus, like, each religion like defines them differently. So, like, for instance, people are afraid of voodoo, but like voodoo, they don't necessarily have like good and evil. You know what I mean? It's not
magic. Yeah, magic is not good nor evil. It's just magic. It's what people use it for.
Right. And that's different. But so yeah, it just depends on, like, just trying to be respectful to people's beliefs and their faiths and stuff like that. That's all. So, it's funny because like in the back chat last week, we were talking about me and Blackman was talking about like just some encounters or whatever. Not just ghost stories, but I guess like experiences and stuff. And like, one thing I can say is I do believe these energies are real. You know what I mean?
Like the scientific community discovered, like, there's something going on here. And they kept studying and kept studying. Now they're at the point where, okay, we can no longer say that it's not a supernatural experience. But whereas before they'd say, nope, it's not it's all fake. No supernatural experience going on here. It's all made up in your mind. Now, after doing all the studying, they're like, you know what? There's enough here that maybe we shouldn't rule this out. It's going from that to like, yeah, we can no longer say that there's no God or a supernatural experience going on here. We got more it's just now they have more questions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I wonder, I mean, did we drop the link? I wonder what other people have to say about that.
Right.
Isn't it amazing? The Christians get a win and no one shows up. The Christians get a win and no one shows up. No one.
Right.
No one's the link. No one's coded this. No one has
like, hey, guess what?
You know what it is?
Something's really happening and you're not crazy.
Right. You know what it is? Everyone's pissing their pants because now all the debauchery that they've been up to. I might actually have to be held accountable for that now. Yeah, everyone's out there pissing their pants now because Shu and I are saying, hey, Christians, you might be right about this. We might have proof. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So what do you think?
Right.
Christians are like,
but it does lead to another conversation. What's going on? BAS. No, I'm sorry. We. What's going on? We.
Everyone's pissing their pants because they're afraid of that. They're afraid of that.
The nation of big one, girl.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
What do you think of this woman? There it is, the laugh. There it is. I can't get it for some reason. I can't get it. I sat here, I've sat home practicing that laugh. I can't nail it.
Well,
we might be safe. Hey, look, we got Sheree in Chicago in the chat too.
It's Sheree.
Sometimes you do sound like a supervillain. Cause we been new. We didn't need your argument. You know what, Sheree? That's Miss AKA Lady. Miss AKA Lady has a lot to say to me in the chat, but she's too chicken shit to click the link and come up and confront me herself. See, AKAs, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is. See, I told you. She thinks she's too good to come on my panel. That's messed up, Miss AKA Lady.
Oh Lord. Hey,
Disappointed in
Mr.
you,
Benny,
man.
how you doing?
What's up, Mr. Benny? How you doing?
All right.
Miss Wiggs, citizen of the nation of Wiglam, Joker laughter impersonator. Okay.
All right.
What say you to what we presented to you tonight?
I mean, I do believe. Well, first of all, I agree with you, Mandrell, that magic does not have is neither good nor evil. It's about the person using it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Because you got the witches and you got who deal with dark magic. You got the Wiccans, they're white magic. Yeah. You know, my experience wasn't much. I used to work at a bookstore, and I ended up running into one of these books about Wiccans. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "Oh, everybody has a little magic in you. You know, everybody has a little magic in them." Mm-hmm. And they gave you this test you got one of the tests is to blow out. Or it was either blow out a candle with your mind or light a candle with your mind. I'm just like,
right.
Okay, right. And
right.
The next one was to astral project your spirit from your body, but you're going to do it for so long and don't go too far from your body. I was just like, hell no.
Right. Well, if I get out, the house won't get back in. What am I supposed to do? Hold on.
I mean, I would have deleted myself if I did it wrong, right? Like, no, this
right.
I had bought the book because I'm like, Mandrell, I'd like to find out about different things, whatever. But I was just like, I don't even know if I want to read this one.
Right.
My family has a lot of empaths in the family and stuff like that, and everybody has their own different thing. Mm-hmm. For me, it's just I can sense things, whatever. I don't like sensing things, whatever. I don't.
Right. But like, nope, I gotta get out of here. Something don't feel right. I got to go.
I would go into people's houses sometimes and just ready to faint.
Oh wow,
yeah. But for the most part, I'm just like, I'm one of those people who have the I think I spoke about it last time. Precognitive dreams, when you dream, when you see something that's going to happen in the future, and then that day happens or whatever, and it's like, oh, you recall the moment that this has already happened, but it was in your dream. So I used to call them deja vu dreams because And there's like certain lands that people won't go around because they can pick up things. Right. You know, especially the unmarked Indian graveyards.
Yeah, the Indian burial grounds and stuff like that. Yeah.
Girl.
I don't mess with that either. Nope.
We got land and stuff like that. It's like there's an area that we will not go because, like, especially not at nighttime.
Right.
Because you got one of them dead warriors who will follow you.
Right.
Girl,
okay, now listen. Wait. Hold on. Now listen. Listen. Here's what we're gonna do. What we're gonna do is
Shu Shu, are you in an altered state of consciousness doing this?
No.
She's
I don't know.
No. Here's what we're gonna do.
I may have
we're gonna get the world class to use OBS and remove the footage that he has there.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
Yes, shout out to Mr. He said. Shout out to the world class. Shout out to the world class.
She must have been possessed.
you know what I mean?
Demonically possessed. And all that came out.
See why I don't do shrooms. I don't do like no psychedelics and stuff. I don't need.
Oh my goodness. Are you muted?
That's a sound you've never seen before.
Oh,
this is.
Oh, you haven't seen her TikTok, Mr. Bennett. You haven't seen her TikTok.
No, she comes on this panel, she's sweet and balanced, and this is coming.
Hey, Mr. Bennett, you should check out her YouTube channel where she keeps all her shorts.
Right.
Number one, they're hilarious. They really are. You really will get a kick out of her shorts. That's what Noble got getting that footage from.
Right,
she made her shorts. They are. She's genuinely funny. Not saying it just because she's my sister, but you get a kick out of them. But she's talented.
I'm kidding. I've seen some of the stuff on Instagram, so I know she's doing.
Oh yeah. On Instagram, yeah. She's funny. That's what Noble gets the footage from. It's cool. I don't have a problem with it. He just caught me off guard with that. I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
Wait, what you telling me? I was like, oh, I'm seeing double.
Like, no, I said no, he didn't. Looks like Noble's team Shu Shu for real.
Absolutely.
Now, and I am grateful for that, sir. Now, Mr. Bennett,
me too.
The scientific community has now eliminated the prospect that there is no God. They now consider the possibility that, hey, there might be something to the whole supernatural thing. Or it might be you, the person, being super, natural.
Right.
You're having a super, natural experience. Whereas the irrational part of your brain is not working, and you're taking in the input of everything else. And that includes, like Beautifully Animated Speaks said earlier, empathic things. You know what I mean? Yeah. There is obviously far much more to the world than we realize with our logical brains. There just is. We know that to be true. And so, what do you think, man?
Well, I kind of came to faith out of conviction, but what grounded me was a sort of scientific approach to looking at it. I read up on some of the early. Well, I would say early. I would say what we would consider modern science, like the Galileos and the Copernicus and those people. We know that the Egyptians, they had stuff that even still nobody was able to figure out. They were certainly very spiritual people. But the basis of science was always taught to me was that in order for something to be science, it has to be observable and it has to be repeatable. And I think for a lot of these early scientists, a belief in God was an aid to that. Said there is an order to the universe, and they believed that there was a higher power that was orchestrating things. So because of that, we could have a basis for scientific discovery. So again, observing of the seasons and the tides and how every year everything kind of comes on schedule. We can build science off of that. And so I've never really had an issue with science and religion. I always thought they were kind of two sides of the same coin. I know in Genesis, God talks about tells man to subdue the earth and have dominion over it. And my thing has always been, you can't have dominion over something that you don't necessarily understand. So my thing was always been, if you want to have dominion over the earth, you have to understand the earth. That means biology, that means botany, that means science, that means chemistry, all those major things. A lot of these early universities, Western universities, were built by religious people because they understood that part of, if you want to know God, you have to know what God created. And so the study of these things has implications in terms of how we go about understanding a certain reality. So I've always existed in that space, understanding that, or certainly hoping that as time goes on, people will start to look at things more as not as science and religion or faith or spirituality. If you don't want to put the religion, because religion is just rote practice. It may not have anything to do with religion at all or spirituality at all. But the idea that these two worlds would collide at some point in time, at least in the present, in ways that it was never presented before. So, looking forward to the future conversations and dialogues where, science validates faith or a higher power, and faith also validates science. I think there's a convergence that I'm hoping that if we can get out of these, tangential arguments over, doctrine. I mean, even in the Christian faith, we can't get two Christians to agree almost on anything. But the big stuff, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, if we can just get that right, the world would be a whole lot better off. So I don't get into the nuances in terms of what angels or spirits are running out there in the world and who's possessed by whom. I think that's a meaningless exercise. But certainly, I'm happy to see that people are taking these things seriously, and if we can have an open platform like you guys are presenting tonight, where people can honestly share their views on these things, I totally with that. And what I brought up earlier about the dimensions thing, someone explained it to me earlier. Like, people had said they didn't understand the Trinity, for example, or how can be three gods? Is it three gods or one God or whatever? And someone explained it to me in terms of dimensionality. Like, so imagine if you had like a board, just a flat chalkboard or a whiteboard or what have you. You just put a little dot on the board. That dot is existing in a two-dimensional space. It only knows up and down, left and right. But we live in three dimensions. So what would happen if I put three fingers on that board? I'm one person. But if you put the three fingers on the board, the dots on the board, they would think there'd be three individuals there. Well, again, he has to interpret it that way because he can only see things from a two-dimensional view. So if we're three-dimensional, but we understand from science there's 10, and someone said earlier there might be 11, and again, that's being discovered. There's so many dimensions, realities that we're just starting to understand. Then how we may see things, we may be a bit limited, but giving ourselves the opportunity to, at least entertain the possibility that there might be things outside of time. Like, time is one of the dimensions. Or we always say in the faith, God is timeless. God, before God is, like, he's always in the present. It's almost like he's got the time stone and he can just go anywhere he wants. We may not understand that because we go, everything with us is linear. We get old, we die, and stuff just kind of moves on. But at least opening ourselves up to the opportunity. One time I did what am I call it? Vacation Bible school I did with teens, and we talked about, we actually used the Avengers as one of the ways to relate to God, because you had all those dimensional stones, right? The time stone, the space stone, or whatever. Well, the person who had all that stuff was essentially God. So, so it was a way to relate certain attributes of God, using that as a basis to build some understanding. So so I think there's certainly a lot of connecting that's going on, and again, I'm looking forward to a day where we don't have to be in these separate camps. You can't be pro God and pro science at the same time. No, I think they're, like I said, they're one and the same thing. So that's all I need. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, because one thing I told, we're gonna get to work class. One thing else, because I've had this debate a lot. One thing I told one Christian, because they tried to tell me that science and God are not the same thing. I was like, okay, what does it say? How did God create everything? He said, let there be light, and there was light. I said, no, what does science say? It says the Big Bang, big explosion, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do you see in a big explosion? A bunch of light.
That's
you know what I'm saying? I mean, they're saying the same thing. Smooth-brained individuals, I guess. Smooth-brained cats. Now, here's one gentleman who does not have a smooth brain. The world class.
Well, I got a rough.
Hey guys, before you go, I need to step up. I just want to drop my 2 cents. I'm going to drop back and listen. But again, great show as always. You guys are on a roll. I mean, I love the format. I love how you like to set up the conversations before you have the discussion. You guys are doing a great job. So just keep producing great content. But I really think you guys are such a group. So
thank you.
Thank you guys have a great night.
You too.
Speaking of hearing God, can y'all hear me?
He said,
Look, I just paid you a compliment.
Ah,
Don't ruin it.
ah, 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 ah,
Don't ruin it.
ah, ah, ah. Dog, this niggas. I love this topic for a lot of reasons. I heard some really similar things that whatever I grew up listening to, like when I was in my 20s. I always, any one of my mentees, any one of these young people that have been that's been like, yeah, teach me stuff, I've always directed, son, yeah, relax, thanks. I don't understand. He's making 6-year-old noises with his mouth. Get closer to me. I don't understand. This boy's out of control. Yeah, so it's a guy named Kevin Trudeau. I'm pretty sure y'all know about him. He has this great series called Your Wish Is Your Command. And what he talks about is how the richest people in the world uses basically neuroscience, how the brain actually works and stuff like that. Modern science at that time. He talked about Napoleon Hill, Law of Success in 16 Lessons and stuff like that. So he talked about these 4 stages of consciousness. He said it's unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and unconscious competence. And I think the second to last clip you played, it was something really similar to that does play into that, aka supernatural agency, angel or clairvoyance, that goes with that. That when we actually get certain things that our habit, especially correct information, accurate information, you start to develop other senses. So we watch like the 6th sense, right? But then there's the 7th sense. But I think I'm gonna save that for like a video. I always want to talk about the 7th sense because it's pretty dope. But I think those are the things that science is starting to catch up to religion. Now, I'm gonna do my etymology thing. Science comes from a word science, spelled exactly the same, right? So that's just how you say it in Latin, is science. Science in Latin means to know. That's all it means. So technically speaking, the religions of old was science. There was really no difference between the two. You know what I'm saying? They really were the same thing, because all religion would have been is what they knew. Their culture, creed, etc. That's all they would have known. The other part is a lot of people aren't initiated. People do not really know how to use the Bible. People really don't know how to use the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Dead Sea Scrolls. I say it like this: the the Quran, the Torah, Tanakh, Talmud, the Bible is like an NHL, MLB, NBA, NFL. You have to have a certain skill set and conditioning before you get there, because none of those books really teach you how to read. You don't learn the alphabet in those religions, so you have to come there with a certain skill set. And a certain King James version is probably the worst version of. I think that's like a collective understanding. It's like the worst version translation of the Bible.
It is.
Yeah, it's pretty trash. But like when you go through Genesis, you'll see a lot of different things. It'll say, "In God said," and then "In the Lord God said," and then "The Lord said." Each one of those, because it's in Genesis, is giving you a genealogy of God. So it's people be thinking one book is talking about one God and one book is talking about another God, but God is relative as it relates to a literal angel hierarchy. That's what it's teaching you. And the angel hierarchy is not like a physical being. It's a certain state. It's not just a physical being. It's a certain state of consciousness, aka a frequency, the level of thinking that you want. Whether you day 1, day 2, day 3. That's why they in the Genesis 1 is teaching you what day you're on. Like this little.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a different level of frequency, and it's a different, like you would have, like we have 7 days. It's crazy to me. It's like in this space, people are like, I don't like the zodiac. I don't like this. I don't like the zodiac. I'm like, okay, but you use the days of the week, don't you? One of the days is called Sunday. That's the zodiac. So the 7 days of creation and the 7, because like we in our culture we say, how many days are in a week? Well, the answer is 7. Well, how many days are in a month? Well, the answer is 7. Well, how many days are in a year? Well, the answer is 7. Because it's only Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's only 7 days. People don't understand it. Just like I'll say, how many numbers are there? People will say, oh, it's zillions and trillions. No. I didn't ask you how high can you count. I said, how many numbers are there? Well, it's only 10. from 0 to 9. So what's the highest number? 9. So 9 is the highest number. So 9 is a 10th number, isn't it? So if 9 is a 10th number, then 9 is 10. So if 9 is 10, then 9 is intention. So if 9 is intention, then what does 10 actually mean? 10 actually means to stretch. So when, that's what the word actually means. TEN means to stretch. So when you actually look at any galaxy, if you look at how trees grow, if you look at any cell, if you look at your muscles, everything makes a 9. Everything is making a 9 nonstop. Science and religion is the same. They're not separate. This is what people that are initiated are taught. Well, I'm at a ridiculously different level than the average person, but this is what you learn. 10,
Right.
intention, at 10 is 9. At 10. So if you're at 10, that means that's usually why the banks open up at 9 o'clock. So that lets you know that the world is operating on real science, and they're giving us bullshit. They're not teaching you this. Your pastor, bishop, imam, they're not teaching you this. The Hebrew Israelites are not teaching this. They don't understand this stuff because they don't know how to read. They'll tell me, "Oh, I really know the Bible." No, you know how to be in a recital. It's not a story, kid. It's science. Like you go to Genesis, learn financial literacy. It's the dopest book in the history of the planet on financial literacy, but people don't understand that. First 3 words in the Bible is in the beginning. Take that into Latin, it's in principio. Principio is in the same family of words as principle. So everything God did it in principle, not in interest. Because there's only 2 things in any business or anything in debt or any investment is principle and interest. It's all comprised of the same thing. So God created the light, and then God saw that it was good. So God was dealing with accountability. God made the light and then checked it.
Wow.
We'll make something and not check it. We'll write something on Instagram, we won't even check it. We'll post it and gotta make edits. I had to do that 3 times today. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying? And so it's a science. Like if we take the approach to the Bible, to religion, like we would work, like we would any other project, and stop the stupid singing and dumb shit that don't have nothing to do with it, we'll understand that it's the same thing. The thing that got me closer to religion was, like you said earlier, Shu Shu, quantum mechanics and quantum physics, more so. They have already discovered God. They said we can break any atom down. We can break anything down to an atom. Everything breaks down to the same atom. He said what they said what we can't figure out is why one atom turns into a desk or turns into a pencil. They said the only, you know what I'm saying? They said the only thing we can gather is that it seems to intend to. So I don't care what metaphysical person you run by. The foundation of creation is intention. Intention, not love, not some cosmic voodoo stupid shit. It's just intention. Everything you see here has been designed, well woven, intentionally. Everything is intentional. When you start to move intention, not love, not force, not hate, not passion, when you do everything with intention, that's what moves you forward. Your intention affects the molecules in water, it affects the atoms in the room, it affects your child. So, and the Bible teaches you that, and the Quran teaches you that. But people want quick fix, instant gratification, because even God was patient. So it's just these little things we think are important. Science is starting to catch up with the Bible, and be like, damn, that shit was right. You know?
Right. It's funny because I was reading about this experiment they did where they had this Buddhist monk like pray over a glass of water, and what they did was they took like pictures of like through a microscope like a molecule like before he prayed over it, and then they took pictures of what it looked like after he prayed over it, and like the molecular structure actually changed.
His name is the god of his name. He passed away not so long ago. Dr. Umoto, I think. He's famous for doing those water crystal molecules from prayer, putting words on bottles and stuff like that. I'm gonna do a live with that and a couple other things, putting all that stuff together. But it's a real science behind religion, and it actually improves how prayer works, improves how I see positive affirmations. I really don't like positive thinking and positive affirmation. I think accuracy works better. Um, but it proves that this stuff works with science. So for the last 7-9 years, people have been out of the loop. As a part of the reason I named my channel The World Class, kind of bring people up to speed on what's going on Earth, and not Sukiyana pissing out her vagina and shit on OnlyFans.
Why?
Because that's not gonna get nobody to wear. So I'm sorry. I hogged up everything. My bad.
Okay. Thank you for that, as always.
Yeah. And Noble, you can. I don't know this whole thing with my sister. I don't know what kind of fascination you got going on there.
What
I
you
don't know
saying?
what that is.
What happened?
That is.
I don't know what you're talking about. What
That
you
was funny.
saying?
You caught me off guard with that one.
Thank you.
You caught me off guard with that one. But yeah, Noble is right. When he breaks things down to
All
the
of
atom,
us.
when they looked at things at the atomic level, an atom is just an atom. They're all the same. But like Noble says, scientists don't know why one group of atoms combine together and create a pencil. The other group of atoms combine to create like water. You know, like they have no clue. Like, oh, it's the same thing. Why is it?
Oh my gosh.
So what's the problem?
I'm crying. She's terrible.
Okay.
No, we listen. Go ahead. We listen. What's the problem?
He's terrible. It's just terrible.
And everybody, ladies and gentlemen, she's not putting on here. I know she's supposed to be acting, but
No.
when I piss her off, she gets like this with me too. I'm like, no, little sis, come on. You know, it's like she's yeah, yep, yeah, I know, yeah, yeah. Any more lies you want to tell? Like, what are you talking about? I'm your brother. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I want to get on to Yusuf.
Yusuf.
Thank you once again for
L'chaim.
joining us this week.
L'chaim.
You're racist.
First of all, what are your thoughts on
That was
tonight's
this past weekend with
broadcast?
Blackman Unfiltered.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Man, Information Man came up there and dropped the mic on him.
Shut this shit down. Yeah.
Shut it down, boy.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, man. You said
Lone
some good
Ranger
shit,
looking
man.
ass.
Oh yeah. He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
He knows his stuff now.
Yusuf?
And y'all caught me in I was in the middle. I was in the middle of eating some food, so I'm just trying to. All right.
Is it hummus?
That's it.
That's crazy right there. That's wild. That was. What you on? What are you doing that?
All right.
Crazy.
He's Jewish. What do you want me to do?
I have no idea. Y'all know what y'all missing.
Yeah,
Macaroons, man, they the bomb.
Is what now?
Macaroons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They awesome.
Yeah.
So man, I like what World Class was saying. It was dope. What he was saying is what they was trying to shut down at the time Christ came around, which is Gnosticism. And you know, so much so to the point where they drove him to the hills and persecuted a lot of them. There is mentioned briefly in the canonical Bible, but that's what happened. The knowledge and the wisdom that he's speaking is very much in alignment with what they spoke. And at the time, there was a certain faction of very, very religious folks who didn't like that. They wanted to keep the status quo. They wanted people to be ignorant of the scientific and the scientific side of and the nature of God. It just focused on the whimsical, airy-fairy, I call it heads in the clouds type of mentality that a lot of people have. It's almost like a suspension of disbelief when I've always said that God doesn't insult our intelligence. He gave us the intelligence that we had. And so he married both science and religion or spirituality, as some people call it today. A lot of people were talking about Adam, or atoms being unable to decipher how we can get it down to the minuscule point, but we don't know how it forms into the things that we understand, and the desk and the chairs and the light in all the different forms it takes. But so that's the science part of it. They know how to get down to the nitty gritty of things, but in doing so, it's almost like they're losing the forest for the trees, because Adam is also in reference to the first man of the Bible. So we oftentimes, it's like we miss each other. It's like being lost in translation. You got the overly scientific folks who mock and ridicule those who have these Holy Ghost experiences and say, oh, these people are just having some sort of hissy fit. Is what basically is what they're saying without saying it. Or they're just, they're just over emotional. And
or some kind of psychic trip or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, this is the type of thing that people who are on drugs, that's what they're experiencing. But they're insulting the religious side without by using their language and the gift of gab to kind of play around with the words and make and insult the other side, who may not have a strong understanding of the scientific side. But what they both miss is that both are integral and important in understanding of God, because God did not work outside the laws of nature. He does not work outside the laws of gravity. And, the things that we see in the Bible about the things that Jesus did, when he came back, and if you believe that, and he came and walked through the walls, and he was, this translucent figure, and then he appeared before Peter and the disciples and showed them his hand, and they put his fingers like, oh, you're real. And, even they didn't believe it. But even Christ didn't work outside the laws of nature. He showed that, we are so limited in our mind, being in the physical body, that we have no understanding of how things work and what we're capable of in relation to working with God. It's not outside the nature of God. But when you're working outside, when you're working in that very spiritual sense, where maybe you're healing somebody, maybe you're casting demons, or you're walking, or you come back to life and I saw my grandma, or I saw her in a dream, or maybe you was awake, conscious, and you saw her sitting in a corner somewhere. We hear stories about that, but we can't verbally explain it so well. And so you got one side that dismiss it, you got the other side that overemphasizes it, and it takes both having a sense of logic and reason, as well as understanding the spiritual side of things. So it's biology with the heart and the spirit. But a lot of people tend to be, like I said, you got the people who are very spiritual, cool, that's great. These are the people that be in the church and singing and dancing. I've seen it all, and I just sit back and just watch and go, what are they doing? And just kind of like observing. But I didn't even believe in the Holy Ghost until it happened to me. I was the one that had the Bible in my hand, ripped out the pages in the book and said, F this. What God? I believe in the science. I believe in the earth beneath my feet. I believe in the trees I can see with my own two eyes. That's all I know until it happened to me. So it's one of those things where if you don't believe it, you're not going to believe it until something happens to you. And then what happens is you end up being the person advocating for it, trying to convince other people who don't yet believe it themselves. And these are typically the over scientific, or I just believe in what I see, the physical nature of things, the physical beingness. But that's not our only nature. That is a part of our nature. So it's people leaning too far on one side or the other. It's like a balancing scale. We're supposed to be balanced. We got the physical, we got the spiritual, and in between we have the emotional, which is our heart, right? Which is what allows us to feel and have those experiences that allows us to operate in both the physical and the spiritual. But a lot of people are overly spiritual, and you got some people who are overly physical. These are your hedonists and, do as thou wilt type people. And then you have your overly spiritual who are just, oh, God is everything. God will solve my problems. God will do it. God, it's like, but he gave you the will and the reasoning to solve your own problems as well. So, if you're overweight and you're fat and you're asking God to help you lose weight, you're a fool. I mean, God is just, he's going to put before you information that tells you how to lose weight, how to eat properly, how to do certain things. But if you choose to ignore it and say, well, I'm going to eat whatever the hell I want to eat, and God is going to fix it, your ass is going to end up in the grave like anybody else, whether you're an atheist or a believer. So it's a marriage of the two. Right. That's it.
Did you see the videos that we played? Because
I heard.
Yeah, it breaks down like the actual, like they did brain scans of people who were actually having supernatural experiences. And what was happening was you had parts of the brain that were ignited, and the frontal lobe part, which is like the part of our brain that controls like reasoning and stuff like that, it shut down. And then like the parts that like activate like sensory which is cognition and stuff like that, all those other areas of our brain were like ignited and fired up. So the bottom line is, from the reading, the scans, they can see like something's happening, obviously, and it's in parts of our brain that do not require like logic, the logic and the reasoning part of our brain.
The logic and the part of our brains that govern logic and reason were completely shut off. Like the logic and reason part of your brain is completely shut off at the same time as you're having the spiritual experience. Like they don't work at the same time. Like one part is shut off while you're having your paranormal experience or supernatural experience. You know what I mean? The logic and reason part is completely off. But the rest of the brain, the one that governs like sensory receptors and how what you're interpreting around, like, you know what I'm saying? All of that was on, from a scale of 1 to 10, it was on like 25.
Well, I always say something to this.
It's like 25, you know what I'm saying? So it's like
people be thinking I'm just being ridiculous. I used to say this. I always say this, like my favorite two things with women that I love the most is obedience and silence, right? I'd always back up the silence part.
Then why do you like Shu Shu so much?
You see that? She's terrible.
This is why we gotta get away from light-skinned people. I love the silence part. Is I say that the same thing that created all things also created being polite. So it's not gonna talk while you're talking. And what you just explained is that part where you're receiving, right? That part of like that part where your brain is just that's what happened when you're doing too much stuff and you start coughing. John Turkey, that's my son. You those downloads will happen and they kind of come in a way where they'll like you ever buy something bulk and then you won't need it till later. A lot of times that's how we receive information. So it's already sent because of the trajectory you're on, and you'll eventually it understands that 6 months from now you're gonna ask to give me a little bit of patience to deal with this hooker because I might hit her, and you get that reception then, and it happens periodically. It starts to unload periodically through your brain. Think I'm lying? That's how it works. You go to school, you take your 6-hour class, your 5-hour class, and then throughout your career, if it's like business or later in school, you start to use that information thoroughly. Same way throughout the 4 seasons of the year. You'll get summer where it's really, 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 really hot. And then that's where you get your raisins. That's where you get the full blossom. That's where it's whatever the sun activates, or that time of year activates whatever in the seed, and then it becomes a pumpkin, and it becomes, it fully endows in the fall. And then you can reap harvest and stuff like that. So that's kind of how that works. So silence and just being in the place where you can receive, where as like right now I'm talking, y'all listening, you're receiving. You can't really listen while you're talking type thing. So that's why I love silence, and that's the part of the brain that just operates in that wonderful way. And you see that with animals all the time. When the mama lion is yelling, the babies is quiet and they just receiving information. I'm saying, so the brain is amazing, man. I've been talking 2 years telling people study neuroscience and also neurolinguistics, how certain words, because and people, I know I'm kind of anal retentive words, but I try to stress that every word that we're using is older than everything living, other than maybe trees and trees and vegetation and mountains and shit like that. But every word we're using is older than all the living creatures that are walking around, moving, and germs. You know what I'm saying? So there's a certain frequency that comes with it that predates some of these civilizations, all of these countries actually. You know what I'm saying? So there's a certain frequency that comes with that, along with your phone number. It's a certain frequency. Your phone number is a frequency. So when you say certain words, you calling somebody. You know what I'm saying? And you calling on something inside of your body. Let's make sure those words are in alignment with what we want. So it just speaks again to the fact that there's a lot of unpacked science, generally speaking, for the public, and that's why I do what I do, because words have power. Words can. A guy named Jim Rome, he said, words have almost the power of God. He said, you come to somebody and they're blind, and you give your story, you give your testimony, and they say, oh damn, look, now I can see. Before I was blind, but then you gave your testimony, now I can see. You can give the power of sight, just like Jesus did with your testimony. So I take them very seriously.
All right.
No, I agree. Like, I was working at a place, whatever, and this is when my kid was a baby still. And one of my coworkers was like, "How's that bad baby of yours?" I said, "What, bitch?"
Ooh. Okay.
I was like, "Don't you ever say that shit to me." And I mean, because it's just a light habit that people have. You know what I'm saying? Bad child, bad baby, whatever. You don't speak that over nobody. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. Who else? We're gonna go with Blackman Unfiltered. I'm sure he's going to come in here and talk his preacher nonsense. And then we're gonna. After him, we're gonna go with Ikene. So Blackman Unfiltered, BMU. What say you on the topic? The videos that we played, the whole nine.
Great.
Well, first, I want to address your comment. My grandmother used to sit me down and say,
"No,
baby." She used to say, "Baby, the biggest trick the devil pulled is convincing
to prove that he doesn't exist." Yes, we know.
Right? And so, with your comment, I know he exists. So, listen, I want to say this.
You welcome, by the way.
When
it's not the first time someone's called me that. It isn't.
Yeah, white devil.
Listen, I'm not a white devil now. Come on, but hey, man.
Would you rather beige devil? Would you rather beige devil? Whichever one. Listen, let me get back to the conversation. Hi, Shu Shu, love you. So listen, this is where I was. Now I heard that when Noble was talking about the positive sides of it. I think also in the brain there should be a level of discernment as well, because that very thing can be manipulated and used against you as well. Let me explain. When people are, say for instance, when you're at a church and people are speaking in a tongue.
Yeah.
And they're using that tongue to gaslight other people, to get other people involved, to get other people to take off running, to get other people to start speaking in tongues. The reason that I call people out on that, I've done it in the church, I almost came to fisticuffs, is because those people, you could tell in a discernment in that moment, when God makes you vulnerable to the Holy Spirit, you're able to discern who's in it and who's not. And some people will sit there and speak a tongue and go all in, and people get all excited. And I'm looking like that's not real, because biblically in the Bible, the scripture does say anyone who speaks in a tongue must have an interpreter from a stranger who does not know them. So if somebody's going to get up and speak a tongue, somebody there should have a connection, like Noble was saying a few minutes ago. It should be a connection with someone else in that room, and it should be delivered. Your tongue should be delivered, but the interpretation of that tongue should be delivered as well from someone you don't even know. Now, the Bible also said it is lunacy. It is crazy for a non-believer to walk in a room and hear people speaking in tongue and don't know what they're saying, don't understand what they're saying. And that is right. If right now, if all of us got together and walked into a church and we walked in, everybody was, you'd be like, what the hell is going on here? If you weren't a believer, if you didn't know anything about God, you would be like, what is this? This speak people crazy. Right? Because you have to have an interpreter to interpret what that means for people to have a connection with God, to understand what God is saying through that tongue. So it's manipulation. Now, we do understand that the devil and God play this. The devil plays games with what God taught him, because we remember that he was not always the devil. He was Lucifer, and he was the most beautiful angel God ever created. And that was God's main man. And so when he kicked him out of heaven, the devil says, you know what? You're going to choose everything else over me. I know you. I know how you operate, so I'm going to use it. And when does the devil come to manipulate people? See, people catch the Holy Spirit, but we don't talk about people catching demonic spirits. Yeah. See, that's a whole nother thing where when the devil says you got your people that can get your spirit, but I got the people I can give them mine. And he comes at the most vulnerable times. That's why when we talk about, and I'm not going to bring this up now, it's a conversation for another day, but that's why when we talk about sexual activity, when we say our women are receivers, and a man who may have a spirit on him lays down with a woman, and he could give that to that woman and have a generation of people who are dysfunctional, children who can't learn, children who can't prosper and be great because he gave something to that woman. I'm going to say this and I'm going to land my plane, guys. There's a movie on Netflix called Contracted, and there was this man who had something in his sperm who would manipulate women and make women so sick that they couldn't operate. It affected their mobile skills. It affected the way they speak. It affected their eyes. It blinded them. And he would go around to these parties where they were drinking, and he would just have sex with these women, and he would bust inside these women, and these women would literally lose their minds. Their bodies would fall apart. They would lose weight. And I think that's a great representation of how the enemy and the devil operates in that spirit realm, where he can control people as well. So at the end, and I'll say this and I'm done. Discernment is where it is. I think when you have a connection with God, he'll give you the discernment to know who's in the spirit with you and who's not. It'll be your own little x-ray machine that he gives you in your mind to know, yeah, that guy right there, yeah, he full of shit. Right? Joel Osteen, full of shit.
Inspirational speaker.
Yeah, Creflo Dollar.
Joel Osteen is a charlatan, if I ever seen one.
Yeah. This is my Bible.
You ever tried to go to one of his sermons? Good luck.
I used to go there.
For 2 tickets, hope you got $1,400.
And Mandrell,
you buy tickets to go in there?
To go to church.
Oh yeah. And Mandrell,
now
it's free to go to the church. It's when he
goes out
conferences. Yeah, those conferences.
We have some conferences with it. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. But he'll say,
Joe. Wait. It's a conference, but it's still a church, though.
Now you got me started, Mandrell. He would get up there and say a story, and he gets paid all these millions of dollars to preach. He'll get up there and say something like this: "There was a guy one day walking down the road, and all him and his son went to the river, and they got in that river and got in that boat, and that little boy looked up at his daddy and said, 'Daddy, I can't swim.' Oh, but I knew one thing when they got back in the car, the little boy was playing with his toy, and the toy broke. The little boy began to cry, and the dad got the toy, and he fixed that toy. A week later, that little boy got in the car with that same toy, and it broke again. But he didn't cry. The daddy asked the little boy, 'Why didn't you cry?' He said, 'Because I know my father would fix it.'" That's how God is, ladies and gentlemen. Even when you're broken and you know that God is good, the second time around, you don't have to cry because God is going to take care of you. That's what he does every Sunday.
Right.
Every Sunday.
BMU. Why? So I got 2 questions.
A lot of them do that, man. I mean, people
BMU, I got 2 questions.
Yes.
Why? First, based off the example you gave, why is that an issue? And second, what do you feel about him? I know it's kind of off topic, not to be too off topic. But what is your, grievance about Joel Osteen?
Well, I think that Joel Osteen, some people are called to the ministry, and few are chosen. And I think Joel Osteen, if you know the story of Joel Osteen, you have to understand Joel Osteen was a young man who was not a pastor, who was not doing anything in the church but following up behind his daddy, being his daddy's armor bearer. And his daddy got on his deathbed and say, "Son, you are now a preacher and you're going to take over this church." So he put Joel Osteen in a compromised position. And Joel Osteen took that, and he'll tell you this. Go look it up on YouTube. And he tells his story of how he became the pastor of one of the biggest churches in America. Not by the fact that he was called by God, he was called by his daddy. And his daddy was there. And that's why he don't teach. He don't teach anything. If you go to Joel Osteen church, he don't teach out that Bible. All he do at the beginning is hold that Bible up and say, "This is my Bible. This is what God wants from me. And this is what God wants me to read." Be believers and receivers of what he likes.
Cool. Here's my question. Wait, hold on. Here's my question to you, Blackman, because the hypocrisy in what you said earlier is astounding that you didn't pick up on it. Well, the thing is, in the Bible it says God works in mysterious ways. Well, the argument can be made that people who listen to Joel Osteen do get spiritual counsel and spiritual enlightenment from what the man says. So, and the fact that his father told him, "You're going to be the preacher." How do you know that God wasn't speaking through his father to tell him to go do this?
He didn't want to do it.
So my thing is,
there's no guarantee of success if you
exactly. There's no guarantee of success, right?
You have to be charismatic.
How do you not know?
Speak, you have to know to touch
how do you not
people.
know that God? How do you not know that God didn't tell his father to tell Joel Osteen to go do what he's doing?
Mandrell.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and like I said, the argument can be made.
Yeah, it can be made.
People get it's not for you now. That style of delivery may not be for you per se. You prefer hellfire and brimstone speeches. Maybe you prefer someone to go strictly on scripture and interpret scripture and the whole nine. That might be the way you receive your messages. But everyone receives messages in different ways. Some people receive messages from God directly and never touch a Bible and they'll go to church. You know what I'm saying? But when people do that and they explain that, people call them, well, you don't believe in God, you're not a true believer, you're a charlatan, this, that, and the other. All the judgmental things that Christians do. But people of God don't.
That's an interesting one.
People are so quick to say, I'm a Christian. I'm like, so what? Are you not a Christian? No, I'm a man of God.
Are you a better Christian? Are you
I'm
a
not a
better
better Christian. I'm not a Christian.
Joel?
No, I'm a man of God. So I mean, no, I'm not a Christian. I don't belong. I don't believe in religion. I think believing in religion.
So Christianity has something to do with the man, not the religion, and that's why I can't. That's why we have that conversation is a conversation to be had because people can't celebrate can't separate the difference. Give an example. Kirk Franklin had an album about 3 years ago called "Losing My Religion," and when he explained the title of that album, he said religion is anything and can be done anyway. Just like right now, man, Joe, you can say, I'm going to have the weightlifters religion, weightlifters Baptist Church.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Right?
Exactly.
Religion, right? It's not about the religion. It's about the relationship.
Look at this. We got one on the screen right now. If y'all call 1-800-975, whatever the last four was.
He up there hollering.
Right.
Yeah. God will come down and praise you and save your souls. It's just 6 cents a week. There it is.
Mandrell, even worse than that, Mandrell, there are pastors, if you wake up early enough, there are pastors that says, call and get your personal prayer package. There you go, right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Call and get your personal prayer package. Your personal prayer package.
Reverend Knight used to do it.
Your personal
you can call and get your free bottle of holy water.
He said, is healing you.
Are you ready for a healing? Reverend Knight used to do that. My thing is, Blackman and Filter, here's the thing. About tonight's topic, because I want to know something from you. Because
yes, sir.
Okay, in contrast to tonight's topic, you gave us a bunch of word salad. So, what do you think? Listen carefully. What do you think of science? Of the idea that science is actually catching up with religion, and scientists have now have enough evidence to work with to say, okay, we can no longer say that this is not being caused by God or any kind of deity. We have to at least consider it now. That this just might be. This just might be a divine an occurrence incident with the divine.
Exactly.
Now, what do you think of this?
I love it because I've been noticing this. I remember even scientists saying something about. You remember back in the day, Mandrell, your mom probably said, or one of your aunts would say, "Man, I can tell the weather's about to be bad. My knees are hurting." And the weather will actually be bad. And scientists didn't believe that at first. But if you go and research that now, scientists said there is a connection between people and the seasons, just like our boy world class.
We know the answer to that. But we know the answer to that. That's the change in the pH levels in the environment does cause either inflammation or deflation of the joints, which can cause pain. That's just the pH. That's just the pH balance of the environment that you're in. So we have the answer to that. That's not necessarily spiritual or anything like that. That's just how the world works, the mechanics of it. So anyway, my thing is like, okay, for example, okay, I'm ignoring that. So when you see the part where, do you think it makes sense when that the rational part of the brain is nearly completely turned off? The part of the brain that governs rationale, logic, reason is nearly completely turned off while you're having a supernatural experience. And they discovered that you're experiencing more. when that part of the brain is cut off.
Yeah, I agree.
You think it makes sense? You think it makes sense? You know, that's why we can't really make sense of this. But
Right.
Go ahead.
I think that from me saying it, I think that God is amazing. I think that in those moments we worry. Some people worry. They're depressed. They're stressed. And what God is saying is, I'm gonna turn everything off to make you more vulnerable, to show you who I am. In that moment, in that time, I'm going to shut everything off that can worry you, that will put you in doubt, that makes you feel miserable. I'm going to take those things from you just for a moment in time, to pause you for a second, to let you feel what it is that I'm able to give you, what I'm able for what you are able to experience through me. I think that's an amazing thing. I think that everything, Mandrell, I think everything is so. Even the makeup of the body is so amazing and unique, that how is it that we can say that it's not made by something that's intelligent? Like, I mean, just think about, even if you go out in the winter, or you go out in below zero temperatures, and your body begins to do things for you that you can't do for yourself. We're going to take the blood from your feet and your hands. We're going to put it in your heart. And we're going to keep your heart pumping. We're going to keep your lungs going. We're going to keep your body going, right? I'm going to shut you down to put your body at rest. Like, sometimes your body will activate, and it will do for you that what you can't do for yourself.
Right.
You know, and so I think when people say there is this, there is no nothing, I remember a song back in the 60s that says nothing from nothing leaves nothing. I don't think nothing made everything like it is today. I think there was some divine intervention for that. How is it that we could just all of a sudden come out, you know, if you're looking at it from an atheist point of view, or if people that don't believe, how is it that a man comes out, he got what he got, a woman comes out and she got what she got, and then those things fit inside of each other? You know, how is that possible? Did we come from bubbles?
Well, the thing is, yeah, I get what you're saying, that and the rationale you're making. I've had this conversation with other Christians and religious types. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's true, what you're saying. But the thing is, to answer the question, my thing is, I don't want people to lean on the side of religion just because they can't answer, they don't have the answer to a question. For example, your question is valid. Like, okay, how are these things fit so perfectly? You know what I'm saying? It has to be intelligent design. But you can't say it just has to be intelligent design simply because this, you know, one thing is one way. That doesn't necessarily mean intelligent design did it.
How else could it happen, though?
And that's the thing. We don't know yet.
Exactly.
As of yet, we don't know. But my thing is, science is catching up, and it looks like eventually, it may not be in our lifetimes, but eventually, mankind, we might get the answers to these things. So you know what I mean? Is there really, you know? And I think that, you know, once we find proof, irrefutable proof of intelligent design,
but DNA is the answer to that.
Right, DNA. Exactly.
So
DNA is not necessarily the answer. It is
you saying design, but what you mean designer? Because we see the design.
The thing is, what I mean by intelligent design is an intelligence designed all this purposefully.
I think you're trying to say supernatural design.
There you go. Yeah, how can you prove the supernatural?
A creator. It doesn't have to be supernatural. It just has to be something outside. Because when I dug, it just kind of go deeper and deeper. It's okay. How far can I go with this? And DNA is the closest I think science has gotten to that, something intelligent design. You don't have to say it's supernatural, whatever. It doesn't matter. But you would have to. That's illogical. I mean, I agree with BMU. You have to be illogical to say nothing created this overly highly intelligent body that we have, and also the fact that we are, for most of us, are self-aware. We are aware of ourselves and of others to a degree that nothing else, or at least on this planet, is. So that's we know ourselves. We have a self-awareness, and that's something that only something outside of ourselves can give us. It's not something that just magically comes out of nowhere. That's illogical. That's where a lot of scientists mess up. And it's like, okay, I thought you said you were a scientific person. If you were a scientific person, you don't have to agree that there's a supernatural design, but you have to at least concede to the fact based off your own studies, and if you want to go down to DNA, just studying that, it's like, okay, there's something here. There's something that just it's almost like a magical quality to it. Now, maybe 50, 100 years from now, they might say, oh, it's nothing so special. Kind of like how we found out that the earth wasn't flat, it was round. And it was like, oh, we thought the earth was flat. Well, I won't even go there. There's some people still believe it. But we know that the earth was round. But so they might come to that conclusion and say, well, we know at first we thought it was intelligent design. Until that time comes, this is just the way it is. It's always going to be like moving the goalposts. The point of science is to get closer to finding God, but you got scientists who think they're moving. It's weird. They're getting closer to God, and they keep denying the fact they're getting closer. And you got people who don't necessarily believe in science so much and say, "Oh, well, science is science. It has nothing to do with God." And yet, the more they get spiritual, the more that God brings them to understand the science behind the thing. He don't want you to be ignorant of either side. You got the over intellectual, you got the over spiritual. I keep going back to that. And it's supposed to be a merger of the two because God is both. He is both. You're not supposed to be absent-minded.
You know what, Yusuf? You know what, Yusuf?
But the thing is, Yusuf, what I'm saying is, the thing is, okay, I ain't doing the light skin face. But anyway, the thing is,
yes, you are.
To answer some questions and to like bring light on this, like, you know, again, scientists are discovering, like I said, they're discovering more and more evidence, you know what I mean, by studying this, and it's to the point where they can no longer rule out, you know, an intelligent designer. That they can no longer say that, okay, there's no God. They discovered enough evidence to like, hey, we can't say that now. Look at what's going on.
They just believe that there is no God.
No, they don't. No, it's not that. It's not that.
We believe
No, like I said, there are scientists who were devout atheists. They just didn't believe. They were nihilists. And there are other scientists that were nihilists, didn't believe in anything. Now they're going, okay, there might be something to this. It went from that to, okay, we can no longer rule out the possibility of there being a God. Right. These are people who didn't believe in anything.
The fourth video I played, because what's his name, Patrick McNamara, he was saying that, you know, nothing out of all the research that they've done, he was like, there's nothing that proves that it's you know, just a what's the word he used, that it pretty much like that it's a figment of their imagination, like, you know, it's undeniable, like something's happening. He was like, but is it real or not? He was like, don't know.
The thing is, you can't. My thing is also what they're saying is we can't definitively say that it is because of God, because there's no proof of that either. But at the same time, my thing is, I'm happy that one thing is I'm ecstatic about is that the scientific community is now actually saying, okay, there's enough here to say that there might be a God. Like, and the reason why I'm so excited is because these are people who believed in nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely nothing. And they found enough evidence. You know, they found enough evidence to say, okay.
But Mandrell, I think they've been new. I don't think they've been trying to find out. I think they've been trying to disprove it. I think they've been new. They've been new to the designer. Just think about it.
Well, no, it's not that.
But I'm saying they're trying to disprove who created. They're trying to say, you know what? The Big Bang just happened. Those planets knew not to bump into each other. The sun knows not to come closer to Earth. Right? They know that Saturn knows how that ring knows how to go all day long, right? The Earth knows how to turn on its axis and knows the exact point to turn. The flowers know to sleep at night and to wake up in the morning to the sun. Right? You have to disprove what God is. It is so unique and so beautiful.
No, you don't disprove it, and they weren't trying to disprove it. No, they weren't trying to disprove it, but they found answers to certain things. Now, these things, the answers that they found are facts, yes, but the thing is, what they say is there's no evidence that there's a God, that a God exists. That's what they kept saying. There's no evidence of it.
Man, I want you to do something.
But hold on. Now they're looking at it now when they're actually studying it. They're saying they went from there's no evidence that God exists to like, you know what? Something's happening here. I don't know what it is, but something's happening. Now they've done so much studying to they're like, okay, we have enough going on here that we can no longer say that God doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah,
And
just
what's,
like
You know what I'm saying?
what's,
So they're not trying to disprove. And the thing is, that's to try to disprove something. That's how you discover that it's existence. Because if you try to disprove it, but all you find is evidence that it does exist, all the negative and naysaying things that you could possibly have are now passe. They're out the window. There's nothing to deny it now, except the proof that exists.
okay, now, Mandrell, let me say this then. Because isn't it amazing that some of the things that God has something to do with can't be duplicated or replicated? Let me tell you what I mean by that. So, say, for instance, look at the body, right? Say, for instance, it wasn't a creator of anything, right? Then how do we explain God saying, you know what? I'm gonna give them what they need, but I'm gonna make sure they have a backup for what they need. Everybody on this panel can live with one kidney. Why do we have two? Everybody on this panel can live. You can come on. We got two kidneys. We got look at these set of lungs, set of eyes.
It's a spare. It's a spare.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Here's my thing. Why is it that we don't have two hearts and two brains?
Say what now?
Then why don't we have two hearts and two brains?
No. Because it wasn't necessary.
Yes, it is. If one
It's
gives
not.
out, I'd like
It's
to have
not.
another heart so I can live
No,
longer.
your heart is the central system that gives everything else what it needs. But in order for those things to work, they have to be paired to work. It's just like an engine. In an engine, an 8-cylinder engine, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 3, 5, 7. If 3 goes out, the engine does not work properly. It will run, but it won't work properly. Everything works together to make something run. And I think the heart is the central system that pumps and gives instructions to everything else, and everything else needs double things to get those things done, right? You can live with one, but you're great with two.
Okay,
I'd rather
All right.
have two hearts.
Hold
I'd
on.
rather have
I
two
wanna-
hearts and two kidneys.
Wait, Mandrell, I want to give an opportunity to say something because he's been here like for a minute.
Yeah.
Listen to me.
Yeah, Blackman Unfiltered said I'm not going to talk tonight.
What's going on, my boy?
Yeah, he said no talking tonight.
What's going? You at home tonight, brother?
I know, man. I've been home for a while. Yeah, the thing about it is this, right? If you look at history, I think somebody's speaking in the background. I think somebody said something in the background.
Yeah, I think somebody at a midget basketball game or something.
Terrible, just terrible.
Yeah.
I'm
So-
gonna be that ain't me.
So what I'm saying is this, right? If you look at throughout history, there has been a relationship between man and God. Okay, let me use the ancient Africa as an example. So our ancestors, right? They had a very strong relationship with God, which continues up to this day. So if you see the way the angels will come, the way the spirits will come, which the Christians call angels, when those spirits come, they come to our ancestors as a great visitation. Whenever they come, they know that something great is about to happen, or something sad is about to happen. So they come to deliver news. Then another thing again that does happen in this category is when Blackman Unfiltered was saying something about the church, like Joe Austin in Houston. One thing is this: the power that God gives doesn't go from father to son. It's not hierarchy. It's not a what do I call it? It's not hereditary. That is why if you see throughout history and throughout religion, it goes from the priest to another priest to another priest. So the priest, before he dies, already had that vision from God of who to be the next priest. So he will reach out to that next priest and say to him, "Hey, you called." Then you bring that priest into the vineyard and then teach that priest for years to come how to administer the things of God. But God already chosen the next priest. God already talked to that next priest that, hey, this is what is next. So the next priest already know that they are chosen. It doesn't go from father to son, son to grandfather. So the reason why I say this is that current Christianity is purely a business adventure. It has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with God at all. These are fraudsters that opened church because they're good at it. They're good at selling things. These are people that used to be bankers. These are people that used to be businessmen. So they saw an opportunity, they took it. Because one thing with businessmen, they can foresee business. Everything that they see tells them the financial benefits. So that's why the businessmen, they can see financial benefit of something, they can see financial advantage, and they go for it. So these are not men of God. Because when you take the element or the ornament or the staff and give it to your son to continue the service, you're not a man of God. Because there is no way in the history, even in every religion that I know of, including the Bible itself, that the staff of God has gone from father to son. It's never happened. But what happened is that when Jesus, according to the Bible, I'm not a Christian, but the Bible, the way the Bible was structured, that God gave, He sent Jesus to come to this earth to do the things of God, and then give it to and choose one of the disciples to take it up, right? To take up the mantle of leadership. The Christian sees on that, right? That's this current, I do call them criminals, sees on that right away. They say, oh, he went from the father to the son. That's it. They don't want to preach that then he went from the son to others. They don't want to ever discuss that because they want to keep that money. The amount of wealth that come into the church, they want to keep it in the family. So just understand, like I was talking to somebody today, I told them this. I said to them that the difference between the rest of the world economy from the US economy is that the world economy, there was already a government before business. But for the United States, there was a business before government.
That's true.
The United States is the only country on earth that had a business before government. The rest of the government on earth, the rest of the countries on earth had government, existing government before business came to be. So US was a country that government was formed around business, not the other way around. Because for 100 and something years, this country had practiced business. Because they left England for here to avoid tax. It's called tax invasion, right? So they invaded tax by coming here. But then they called it freedom to worship as a pretext. But it wasn't. It's just to invade paying the king tax. They wanted to form a new place where they can do business because the king was actually the person that sent them here to come and steal, just like they did in Africa and the rest of the world, to come and steal and bring to the king. But after about certain years, many years of sending their taxes to the king, they rebelled. Just like when the white people left Persia for the Caicus, right? They rebelled against Persia because they didn't want to send the tax back to Persia anymore. They rebelled against Persia by seizing everything. So Persia had to go to war at the Caicus mountain and lost. So that was the same thing because they have history of doing it. That's the same thing they did here. So what they did, they started a business. And instead of a business, now they formed a government. So the business has been around. So when Christianity, when they came to this place, they did the same thing. So now they practice Christianity as a family business, not a business of the community, not a church of the community, but church of the family.
Okay, now,
So
let me say something to you, okay? Some ministries may do that, and I want to get information, man. I gotta shut up, because I gotta hear what you gotta say. But all ministries are not like that. Let me give you an example. There are a lot of children in college because of churches. There's a lot of homes and mortgages who have been saved because of churches, right? There's a lot of gardens and plants and job opportunities and having the right connection to people. Children are eating off of the church. I'm telling you, listen, every ministry, I told me and Mandrell had this conversation about 4 months ago. There's a church right here in Dallas, and I'll take you to it because we're in the same city, right? It's Friendship West Baptist Church. They have their own, they have their own garden where they plant the food, they plow the food, they pull the food, they take it out to the community. The community comes over. Right now they have a summer program where they're paying children from 14 to 18, $15 an hour. The church is pocket paying the kids $15 an hour to go and get experiences in corporate companies, up to 60 kids. They're buying all the male suits and they're buying all the young ladies whatever they're going to wear, right? Like pantsuits or a nice dress or whatever, teaching them how to dress, how to be in corporate America. So they're giving back now. They're giving a lot of money away.
There is not, one thing. The church has always given, but the core thing about the church is to run a business. That's the core thing about most of the churches. Even Catholic Church, the same thing. Business
has to be paid, man. Business.
But you have to. But you know what? But
Water,
the church,
gas, light.
Right. That's what I was about to say. The church cannot survive if it don't pay its bills, and the way it pays its bills is.
But I understand where you guys are coming from, but at the end of the day, that is not how most places religion are being practiced.
You're right. I agree.
The church and Islam are the two biggest financial institutions, and they are practiced based on financial givings, right? We know that, but there are religions all over the world that are 2 times, 3 times bigger than them, and they don't rely on the financial means of fundraising or tithe or offering or whatever you call it, just financial fundraising in order to run, because they already know that the church, the religion is part of life of the people, and the people will always bring to the religion. Just like back in the days when we were growing up as little kids, we understand the power of the gods and how the gods structured. But go there today, it was actually some of the people that left the church have turned the African religion to look just like the church. Bring money, bring money, bring money, bring money. Some people come to your house and tell you that, hey, I saw a vision that you're going to die. I want you to bring so amount of money so I can pray for you. And if I pray for you, you're going to leave. What kind of fraudulence is that?
Now it can. Let's get information man in. But before we do, now I see some of those African preachers over there got those women drinking their sperm, talking about this guy's milk now. So we gonna.
Okay, cool. You listen.
But the thing is this. What I'm trying to say in essence is this, right?
What in the hell?
Right, the hell?
Let's just move on. He's
information, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's get information in. We'll come back and give you a chance to rebuttal.
I'll try to be. What's going on, Mandrell and Shu Shu? That's good. A great show as usual. I'll try to be as brief as I can. I hear what the brother was saying about the church being built around business, but as a black man that's been born in this country, and I know American history very, very well, I disagree on this point. America built its financial business around slavery, and the churches were used simply as social control, because when white people left Great Britain, they were concerned about a central bank controlling them, and he's right about the taxation. That's why they never wanted a central bank in America. So when you look at the Federal Reserve, which is a central bank, which is not even federal, they never wanted that. If these guys were alive today, they would be very angry. They never wanted the control of that. And another thing, they also left Europe because they wanted a separation of church from state. Those countries over in Europe were being ruled by churches and church anarchy, and they wanted to separate themselves from being ruled by a church or a religious theology or whatever we want to call it. In terms of religion, Mandrell, I have to say to you, brother, everybody on the panel, you have to be honest with yourself. And I'm more spiritual. I'm not really, unlike you. I don't believe in the church, which is the organization of church, because we have too many shalligans and people who rip you off. And I come from that generation of losing friends who lost their lives dealing with Jim Jones.
Yeah.
Very familiar with that church, People's Temple. I could literally walk past that place as a kid. So I don't like the institution of church, but I do like spirituality, believing in something, higher. I believe that is real. But the institution of church, I think, has been used to culturally and socially condition us, and that's the problem I have with it. But everything that we know about religion or what we believe, we have to be honest. From the time that we were born, we didn't know anything about God or another life until another human who has eyes and arms and fingers like us told us these things from a book. Everything that we know is because another human told you, not to discount people who have their own spiritual awakenings and spiritual beliefs about what they have seen and experienced. I don't want to discount that. But most of what we know about religion is what they taught us. Remember, when black folks came over here during the slave trade, most of us, we know Christianity was in the continent as well, but most of us were not Christian per se. Christianity was a something, and I know people hate to hear this, but it's just the truth. Historically, they used the Bible to socially control black people, to say to you, this is what God meant you to be, which was a slave. Remember, they gave us a slave Bible. The slave Bible was an edited Bible that took out additional things and only taught us that this is what God wanted us to be. And the reason why black people got Sunday off on a plantation is because that was the day that they were willing to allow us to be indoctrinated by the Bible. So they gave you Sunday as a day's rest from picking cotton and whatever else they had us doing agriculturally. These are facts historically. And then they use black preachers were primarily used by the masters as to doctrinate information to us as to what they wanted us to know. Matter of fact, when we first learned to read, because remember, they would take our lives if we were caught reading. And when they allowed us to first start reading, what did they start us with? The Bible. These are all historical facts. So everything that we know is based on what somebody told us, what somebody gave us. And they say, this is what you got to believe. And you made a really good point tonight, Mandrell, that most of us who are Christian, what have you, in America, if we grew up in another country, we would not be running around calling ourselves a Christian, because you will be whatever you've been taught to be and culturally conditioned to be. If I grew up in China, there's a higher chance that I would be Buddhist or something of that nature, if they even allow that to happen over there. They're so communist over there, right? So we would practice different things. If I grew up like people who grew up in South America, or New Orleans, where they have the mixture of the Christianity and then they have the candles, or what we call voodoo or hoodoo, which is the real name, hoodoo, not voodoo, right? Then your practices would be different based on your cultural orientation. So it really gets back down to you believe what you believe based on what you've been exposed to, right? Yeah. Now, check this out. When you look at this word called Illuminati, which is meaning the enlightening one, right? The enlightened one. When you look back at the history of that, the reason why you had the Illuminati were actually priests in the church, or the Catholic Church, who believed in the combination of God and science as being one. I think World Class, if I'm not mistaken, made some statement around it being one and the same. It actually is. So when they start digging in the ground and you got gold and you got uranium, that's the power of God that they've turned and twisted into something else. So when you really look at it closely, when those priests were forced out of these churches, they had to flee because they believed in both science and religion as one entity. So when we think about it, when I look at science, I just see it as, on my spiritual side, I see it as this is the power of God, whether it be dark matter, whether it be the sun rising up. Ain't no human controlling none of this stuff. There's something very divine, very powerful in the universe that's allowing all of us to wake up, go to sleep, the sun to rise. None of this stuff is happening by happenstance. So there's something powerful. Now, what that power is, as humans, we always want to intellectualize it as God being a man. And then some will say, well, God could be a woman. Remember, we intellectualize things based on the only thing that we do know, which is being human. So because all we know is being human, we sort of put human ideologies on what God is. That's why we always call God a he, because we're conditioned by how we live on this planet. Right. So we got to keep that in mind when we assume what's out there, because the truth of the matter is they can't even tell you how this planet and this universe got created when they talk about the big boom theory. And Mandrell, you brought this up. They'll say a big boom happened. And I remember asking a teacher in college, okay, can you explain to me how did the big boom get created in the first place to become a big boom? They can never explain that part to you, right? And then they'll say to you that the difference between science and religion is that science is based on facts, figures, numbers, and religion is based on your belief, your faith in something, right? Your faith. But then how do you explain people who were sick with something? Like, I give you a perfect example. My mother had cancer, breast cancer, and she just went into a spiritual trance, prayed on it, and just went into her spiritual. And when she went to the hospital and the doctor examined her, I kid you not, the doctors couldn't explain why the lump disappeared. What do I mean by this? I think that humans, that there's something inside of us so powerful that there's times that we can heal ourselves unexplainably, because there's something in our bodies and our DNA that even these doctors don't know. When a person goes to a medical school and they become a doctor, they call it what? I'm practicing medicine, because they don't really know what they're doing. That's why it's called we're practicing. They're trying to figure it out. When I'm at work working with the doctors and they're giving guys medication, they're always like, the guy will come in and say, well, doc, this medication, I'm not feeling any effects. Or this is not working. It's making me drowsy. Okay, I got to go back in and I got to adjust this and adjust that. Why? Because they're practicing on you. These doctors don't even know what the hell they're doing. They don't know human. We don't know our bodies. They don't know our bodies. Even black people, we have melanated bodies. There's already been proven data out there that when we deal with white doctors, I got to be honest here, black people stand a higher chance of living when we are administered health from a black competent position, whether man or woman, because black people, we understand our bodies and we understand our spirituality. I land there, gentlemen and ladies.
Let me ask you this information.
Thank you, misinformation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
What do you
yes,
think
sir.
About, is the Holy Ghost just a ghost story?
Oh, I can't say that it's just a ghost story, because I've seen, in my 53 years, I've seen things that have given me goosebumps, brothers. I've seen what happened to my mother. I've seen what's happened to other family members and people that I've known. I have had some things happen to me that was unexplainable.
Right.
And I'm not trying to sit up here and say I'm not trying to sound all Twilight Zone, but all I know is that I personally have seen things and witnessed and experienced things personally that I know it had to be something beyond my comprehension. And the only thing I can lay it on is my belief in God and my spirituality, that there's something bigger than what we know. Because a lot of times as humans, we like to think that we're the be all to end all in the universe, which is why I personally believe that we're not the only living life form in the universe, that there's other life forms out there. that we probably can't comprehend.
That's a good, yes, sir.
And I'm not talking about buggly eyes and green people. I'm just saying there's other life forms out there. There have to be.
Right.
Yeah, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way to you guys. In Igbo land, right, in Nigeria, with the Igbo people, we have just like because that's where all religion came out from. Most of the Christianity and the other religion were actually copied from the Igbo tradition according to history. But this is how they did it. There is God the Father, which we call Chukwu. Chukwu means God the Father, the heavenly God, the God who created everything. It's been in our ancestry for thousands of years that there is God. But then we also had another God again, which is called Chim. Chim, according to our people, are the God of you. He's the God that judges your heart, the way you talk. When you do something good, it judges you for your good. When you do something bad, it subconsciously judges you for your bad behavior. So throughout life, our people have always said, Chim. So that's what our ancestors attributed as the Spirit of God, which the Christians call the Holy Ghost. So they call it the Spirit of God because it's the God that follows you everywhere you go. It's right inside you. When we do something, when you come against us, right? Let's say you're about to do something to us, we will say that Chim will not allow you, meaning my God will not allow you. But we know that there is a separation between Chim and Chukwu, which is there is a separation between my God and God. Because my God is what we call the Spirit of God. But Chukwu is the big God, the God, that's the God that made heaven, that made the whole universe. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on.
We're gonna move on to final thoughts. This has definitely been a dope conversation. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for everybody for coming up on the panel. So we're gonna start with Weeks. And you can go down the line.
Hey, assalamu with them. Assalamu with them.
Alaikum salam. So earlier I had dropped a link to a documentary called Dosed. It's about microdosing or shrooms, basically. They did microdosing and stuff like that. They were using the shrooms to get I think she's a heroin addict. So they used that to get her off. So she was able to wean herself off. The withdrawals were bad still for her, but not as bad. So I would suggest checking that out to get a little bit more information about shrooms and psychedelics, whatever. Let's see. If you're into herbs with your people, I suggest you find out what herbs, what's the name of the herb, because some are stronger than others, and you may not want to mix that with alcohol and have White Rabbit talking to you. Yeah.
Write another Alice in Wonderland, honey.
Yeah, the whole story was an actual acid trip.
No, but that happened to me like years back, whatever, and I was just like, I'm laying back and there's a white rabbit talking to me. I'm just like,
why was the rabbit white?
I don't know. And this rabbit wasn't like any other rabbit I've seen before. I was like, where did you come from? I mean, I didn't say that.
No problem.
But yeah. Be careful in these streets. Be careful.
Thank you very much, beautifully animated speech. Thank you for coming. What's his name? John?
Yusuf.
Yusuf.
How did you get Josh out of that?
Whatever, man. I mean, it's late. I'm tired. Come on, man. Give me a break. No. I mean, I was about to call you Drado. So
Old.
small
Oh,
family,
wow.
right?
That's
Right.
Like I call it because I actually was eating hummus first,
okay,
but then I was like,
very-
okay.
Man, we all get to a point where we get old, and Mandrell changed the oil on the Titanic. Let's just be real.
Well, I tell you what, Black man.
Go ahead,
I'll tell you what, Black man. You keep living. You keep living. You'll get my age. So,
Yeah, I can't wait to be 51. Go ahead.
nowhere near it either. Nowhere near. Anyway, Yusuf.
This guy. I haven't heard anyone call me like that since I went to synagogue many years ago.
Wow.
Wow. What was I going to say? Actually, it was Yusuf.
Yeah, Yusuf.
Yep. I think that there just needs to be respect on both sides in terms of and how scientists approach the topic itself. Is the Holy Ghost real, or are these just like ruminations of things going on in people's brains? Are these people schizophrenic? There needs to be a respect on that end and how they approach it with their level of intellect, because there's that need to over explain everything or over intellectualize everything. Yeah. And then on the other side, it's having a healthy respect for biology, nature, laws of physics, just natural laws that govern the earth that we not only abide by, but also God abides by. So having a healthy respect for both sides, not calling each other stupid head, and basically the fancy way of being acting like children in school, because you think you have these answers, and you have this side, and you might have those answers, but you're missing the whole side, and you have blind spots that you don't know that you have blind spots, but you think you got it all figured out, and the other side think they got it all figured out. So there's truth to this Holy Ghost. There's truth to it. Even if you don't believe in anything that Christ had done, there is irrefutable proof that he existed by hundreds of accounts. Even people who didn't believe in Christ knew that he existed, said it. This guy, who was him on a donkey, like we heard about it. I went to see the guy. He's real. So we don't even have to believe in anything that he did for the reasons that he came here for. But the scientific proof is that, and from word of mouth and from just eyewitness testimony, is that he existed. And so that's it's that there's that proof. But if you choose to want to believe, even in spite of proof that God doesn't exist, Christ doesn't exist, Holy Ghost doesn't happen, it's just something else going on, near-death experiences. All these people, what a coincidence. All of them have very similar experiences, but that's just something that goes on in the brain. Yeah, it's something that goes on in the brain, but that's the chemical reaction to things that happen on the spiritual side. They go hand in hand. It's not absent from each other. But yeah, that's all I want to say.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. And keep in mind, if you'd like to donate to Shu Shu and I personally, the Cash App and the PayPal is scrolling at the bottom of your screen, right there. All donations are accepted.
You sound like one of the preachers.
No, we accept like American currency. We accept the British pound and the euro. Everything else, you can keep that. It ain't worth nothing.
That's crazy.
So, Blackman Unfiltered.
Anyone know Nigeria money?
No, it's worthless.
No, my final thoughts is my final thoughts are more like giving flowers. I think that I want to give flowers, especially to a great show tonight. I definitely want. What is that? Oh, I definitely wanted to
exactly.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that? Exactly.
My brother. But I definitely want to give flowers to the fact that of the idea of even having this conversation. It is expected today that any conversation that goes deeper than that submersible, people won't show up for it. A lot of people don't want to tune into that. But if Shu Shu said something in the mouth of, hey, Mandrell, let me tell y'all about what Mandrell did. My brother is a is a punk ass dude, and there will be 150 viewers right now. But I think that the conversation was amazing. Shout out to Shu Shu for having the idea and being the brains behind the operation. Being the brains behind the operation.
He's never been the brains of the operation.
Amen. Amen. Definitely. Shout out to Shu Shu.
This was my topic though. This was my topic though.
Also,
Good job, Shu Shu.
I also want to say that the smile that makes the show brighten up and
Amen.
everything, man. Mandrell is here and he's supportive, and
I'm here and I'm supportive.
But all jokes aside, man, I just love the topic. I love the fact that you guys blend the way that you do as brother and sister, and these conversations need to continue to happen. And I thank God that I'm surrounded by people who want to have intellectual conversations as much and as deeply as I like to have them as well. So shout out to you guys, man. I appreciate you guys and everything that you do, and keep it up, Shu Shu and Mandrell.
Thank you very much, Blackman Unfiltered.
Thank you, Blackman.
Go down once to Ikene. If you'd like to give us your final thoughts, sir. Thank you for coming to the platform. Thank you for the support, also, sir. We are very grateful. We are very grateful.
Listen to me.
No problem. Yeah, that's what's up. Listen to me.
listen to me, like they say in Africa. Listen to me.
Hey, you know what? We're gonna have a show, and we're gonna have nobody on the panel. We're gonna have Ikene and Black David do a show together for about 5 hours.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Why have you leave me out, though? I want to be there.
Number one, listen to me. Number one.
Yeah. that would be good. That would be a great show.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, but do not leave me out, though. I want to be there.
Definitely. So, put it this way, right? The early scientists will actually have a strong connection to spirituality and God. The early scientists were up until the days of Newton, because if you look at somebody like Gay-Lussac had a very strong relationship with God. People like the guy that discovered that expanded on early science, and that's the current contemporary scientist. What's his name? I'm trying to remember his name. The Italian scientist that disputed Copernicus. Copernicus was the Greek scientist that said that the Earth was flat. But the Lussac said no, that the Earth was round, and he believed in God. But what happened is that the Catholic Church said no, that the Earth was flat, and they put him in prison. From there, he had a organ failure. They released him, and later on he died. But still, he said when he was dying that when they were about to burn him, because they later set him on fire because they said that he was going against God. He said, even though I speak, it still spins, which means the earth rotates around the sun, not the sun rotating around the earth. So if you look at relationship between those scientists, what happened is that in the 18th century, there were a group of scientists that came on board. Between 18th and 19th century, there were a group of scientists that came on board. Those were scientists that didn't believe in God. So they were atheists. They said that there is no reason, that is not proven that God made all these things possible. But then to dispute those scientists, if something is formed inside a human and then grow organs, and from organs to skin, from skin to branches, and then later delivered, and the said thing comes into the earth and then uses the earth element to grow hour by hour, day by day, month by month, year by year. That tells you that there is something that made it possible. If it was made the way the scientists stipulated, or maybe try to prove, it would have been like an automobile. Automobile never grows. Nothing that scientists make grows. They just stay in the height and shape that which they were made of. They never add length, they never form, and they never grow. But because there is a supernatural being that made these beings possible, they grew from tiny, tiny little thing to giants. And everything that they do is synchronized through the elements. So they need water to grow, they need the sun to grow, they need the air that they breathe to grow, they need everything that elements provide, which is as a result of a supernatural being using the universe to make those things possible. So yes, there is God. There is also the spirit which God communicates between. There is a spirit that communicates, that is an intersection between man and God, or between humans and God. So that's what it is.
Wow. Thank you for that, Ekene.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. We're going to move on next to, of course, the information man. And I'd like to say thank you for this weekend. You epic, with an epic mic drop. That was actually really good. Yeah, that was fantastic. So, came in guns blazing, Shu. He came in guns blazing and just like, all right, let me shut this down. And he did and just left. It was dope. Wow. It was super dope.
Wow.
Well, I'm not going to be long-winded. I think this was a great show tonight.
I'm here.
And go ahead, brother. Were you finished? You weren't finished what you were saying?
No. I said I'm here. They thought I left. Okay. I didn't leave. I'm here.
Oh,
no problem.
No, I just want to say that it was an excellent topic. Great discussion. We need to have more of these type of discussions and allow people to, express where they are with this particular topic. Once again, I'm going to hold my feet to spirituality being where I am in my life. Not necessarily organized religion for me hasn't worked for me personally. But, remember the old, what was the old saying, Blackman Unfiltered? God bless those who, you can read the Bible, but do you understand the Bible, right? Can you understand it? And a lot of people, you got to be honest, a lot of people don't quite quote the Bible very well. They misquote it. They take it out of context and they use it for their own evil purposes. That's the danger of organized religion if you don't have someone who's not doing the right thing. Now, of course, I noticed that the smaller churches, when I lived in Oakland, it seemed like the small churches were really doing the work of the people. And these big mega churches were the ones that was taking in all the money and pimping the people. I always found that to be interesting, how the small churches are doing the real work, yet they get no recognition. And these big churches are just taking in the money and everyone's excited over the preacher driving his fancy car. I just thought that was all backwards because you have to ask yourself, for those of you who believe in Jesus, when Jesus walked the earth, they said that he hung out with the whores of the day, the pimps and the criminals. So if Jesus was to come back in the 21st century, who do you think he would be out there with? If you are one that subscribes to Jesus, he would be out there with the downtrodden people. So yeah, right. He's not hanging. He's not going to go hanging out with TJ Jakes and any of these people that people like. You're not going to hang out with them because those people are living high on the hog. Matter of fact, he might call some of them out. You never know. But I want to thank you for this discussion, though, Mandrell and Shu Shu. This was a great discussion. It really made me think about some things because we all have a moment in our life where we question our belief in God when things happen. When we see what always has bothered me is when you see good people living good and doing the right things, and then they end up being deleted and they die, while the evil people walk the earth and continue to do more evil. And you say, why are they still here? Right. And there's a guy that I know and follow on YouTube by the name of Question Everything. And he has a running theory, because in the Bible it teaches us that if you don't do good, you're going to go to hell. But he has a running theory that maybe do you know? His theory is that Earth, the planet that we live on, we might already be in hell and don't even know it, because there's so many things on this planet that can kill us, right? So you ask the question, why would God put us on a planet where there's so many things that can harm us? And why would he allow all these things to happen to people and not come down and stop it, unless, this is the theory, we are already in hell. And when we sinned, this was the place that we were sent to, that we think is a planet that we were already on. These are theories. They're theoretical, because once again, all we know is what someone told us. But what if this is hell that we're already in? And that part of our curse is that this is a hell that we're in. And this planet called Earth is nothing but a prison that we're all born into. That's just a theory, folks. Just a theory. Don't rake me over the coals. That's just a theory. But thank you. I'm finished. I land my plane.
Thank you so much for that information, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know what happened to World Class.
Yeah, where is he at? I wanted to hear what he was going to say too. But anyway.
Right.
That's absolutely you want running around here paying, bottom shelf dollar for shitinnet.
Really?
He instead of getting internet like the rest of us. Yeah, that's what happens. Hey, he had you posted up on his OBS, so I mean, that's why I get that.
That was funny.
That was funny though. That was funny. To his credit, I like that. That was cool. He caught me off guard. Then he had the little boy doing the light skin face.
Right.
Y'all gonna get off of us, man. Light skins. Okay.
Well, what are your final thoughts?
I like it. I like the fact that it's actually being studied. You know what I mean? And I've had this kind of conversation again with Christians, and I say, scientists are discovering more and more evidence that there is something to people having paranormal experiences and experiencing spiritual events in their life. There's something going on there that science is acknowledging now. Mm-hmm. They know now that it's not just imagination. There's something going on. Christians get defensive.
Right.
No, because the Bible, I'm like, you do know that the Bible is not even surface level stuff. That's like learning your ABCs.
Right.
There's so much more to the world and to the universe that even when you master the Bible, all he knows is A, B, C, D. He doesn't know to put a THE together to make the.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Even mastering the Bible is just all that means is you know the alphabet and you know your numbers. You don't know to combine 1 + 6 to equal 7.
Right. Yeah.
They don't know how to put it together. Even with them, that's just too much to the world that we don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So I want information, man. He and I agree. I agree with him. Like, I maintain my feet squarely on the spiritual side of things, not with religion. I can't do mankind's hands have been too much into that, and it's been used for some tool of control to control the masses. I can't trust it. I can't trust a religion.
Right.
Just me. Other people can do what they like. It's a free country, Thank God for that.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been worse. If you're in North Korea and you're a Christian, that's a death penalty. You know that, right?
Yeah.
In North Korea, if you're a Christian, it's the death penalty.
Certain places in the Middle East too, yeah.
Oh, not really. They just don't like you very much. You know what I'm saying? The Middle East, even they're not that crazy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even the Middle East is not that crazy. Let's kill him. Why? He's a Christian. What? Why would we have to kill him because he's a Christian? And then they'll kill you, and then they'll put you in jail. Mm-hmm. And as soon as your child is born, that child goes to jail. If that child has a child, the punishment goes back 3 generations. So you, your children, and your grandchildren all go to jail.
Right.
That's how. Just because you're a Christian, like and they choose either that or the death penalty. I think I just rather cut my losses, man. Just put me out of misery. Give me death.
Right.
It's crazy though. You know what I'm saying? But that's the way it is over there. At least here we have the freedom to believe what we want, and we have the freedom to study these events. And I'm glad we're doing it.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
when
the
I
Christians should be happy too.
Huh?
Christians should be happy too.
Right.
Don't
Right.
be defensive, Christians. Good Lord, this is actually helping you.
Right. Well, my thing is like because I've been looking at like just trying to get an understanding of like just different religions too. Like, okay, well, of course I'm familiar with Christianity, you know, I'm raised up on it. But like, okay, well, you know, why are there so many different number one branches of Christianity? Then
The
you
Lutheran,
have other,
the
have
Baptist,
other like
Baptist.
religions that believe something different. I'm like, okay, well, what is it that it makes this one so much different from this one? And at its core, for the most part, most religions have the same founding principles. You know, like, you know, just respect your fellow man, honor God, honor yourself. You know, just basic foundational principles. So, you know, at their truth, you know, it's all similar beliefs, but like they just, you know, have different rituals. And the thing is too, like, you know, Christians aren't the only ones who have their prayers answered. You know, all other religions, they pray and they have their prayers answered too. So that lets me know that there has to be something greater out there that we're all sending prayers to, that we're all sending this energy to. You know what I mean?
If you ain't praying to my God, he ain't gonna answer your prayers.
Right. Well, you know, that just has to let you know it's something.
That bald head, no neck midget. I sentence you to 3,000 lashes for conduct unbecoming a black man.
See what I'm saying? Like, you just said it yourself. Even like,
I've been waiting on it.
People who are not Christian get their prayers answered.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, you ain't all the way right.
Right. And you know, like I say, even in the video, he was saying how people who aren't religious even report having, you know, experiences that are supernatural. Yeah. So they understand that there is something out there, something going on.
That's
so
what it is.
Right, exactly. And the great thing is now we're getting closer and closer to those answers. So you know, and at the end of the day, they're not hallucinations and they're not figments of our imagination, because the evidence is there. Something is happening. So
yeah, you know, and shout out to Von Bryant, Shamaria, because he was late. He didn't see the videos. Von Bryant, go back and watch those videos to see what we're talking about. How scientists have proven that when it comes to paranormal events, stuff like that, there's something going on there. Right. It's not just thinking of people's imagination.
Yeah. So energy is definitely real. And there is definitely we're definitely making connections to a spiritual source out there. So, you know.
Shout out to Lady Navoa.
We're not crazy. Yeah. Shout out Corey and Lady Navoa. How y'all doing? With that being said, y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in to this conversation. We hope you know, this does bring more enlightenment, and this encourages everybody to go out and just do more research and just more studying, and you know, continue to ask questions. It's okay. You know, that's how you
not if you're Christian,
and that's how you find. That's how you get more information and you become more enlightened and more aware of this earth and the universe that we exist in. So, with that being said, y'all have a good night.
Unbreak my heart.
No, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Do the outro. Do the outro.
Undo this hurt you caused when you walked out the door and walked out of my life. Unresist.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why. All I know is I would like it to stop.
Let
light, see the villains are paper mache. I'm on the way to the promised land, no contraband. I'm an honest man, I'm coming. Have y'all met me? I'm set free, playing my part like the Red Sea. Man, I'm from heaven, I'm here with my brother in the volumes 11. Now we're getting proud.